Jin-yong lives with a secret coach named Jason who only he can see. To protect his heart, he trains himself to see every girl as a literal block of stone. Treating girls like rocks makes life easy and keeps him from getting hurt. When a classmate asks to study, he shuts her down before his imagination can run wild. He owes this effortless social life to Jason's relentless mental training. The stone-faced world shatters when a girl with a real face suddenly appears. Jin-yong panics and accidentally tells her she is beautiful before he can stop himself. He flees the scene in total humiliation as his brain short-circuits. He is terrified that his sudden outburst will turn into a school-wide scandal. Jason thinks he is being charming, but Jin-yong remembers the last time he liked a girl. He worries that everyone will think he is a creep all over again. Jason delivers a Jason punch to knock him out of his self-pity. Mystery girl Sunwoo finds him again and teases him about his compliment. She asks if he still looks pretty, which sends him into another sprinting fit. Sunwoo is impossible to ignore because she is the only person who does not look like a rock. He tries his best to play it cool, but she keeps waving him down. Sunwoo corners him on the street and calls out his weird behavior. Jin-yong finally admits that she is the only girl in the world with a face. She leans in close and tells him that his confession counts as flirting. His mental defenses crumble as he realizes he is already breaking Jason's most important rule. We open with our boy moping on the floor in his pajamas. Since real life is failing him, he starts asking his imaginary friend for relationship advice. Yeah, it's just as pathetic as it sounds. Meet the voice inside his head. This is Jason, an absolute unit with a thick mustache and a white tank top. Honestly, he looks like he spends more time at the squat rack than in reality. Jason's got a special strategy for navigating the ladies. He tells our guy he needs to stop seeing women as people and start thinking of them as literal stones. It's some top-tier brainwashing. Instead of questioning it, Jin-yong takes this advice way too seriously. He spends the next few years staring at a blue wall to master his mind control. While other kids are out playing soccer, he's busy meditating on literal gravel. By the time middle school hits, those mental blocks finally snap into place. Now every girl he sees has a literal stone block for a head. It's a rocky social life, to say the least. Flash forward to the present, where our boy is recalling the next phase of the plan. Jason's got a second rule to keep things from spiraling out of control. So when a girl with a granite face asks if he's free after school, he doesn't even flinch. He hears her out, but Jason's right there in his ear warning him to stay focused. No happy fantasies allowed in this head. He reminds himself not to mistake basic kindness for romantic interest. Therefore, he just tells her he's busy and walks right past. Cold as ice. Turns out, seeing girls as rocks makes life a total breeze. There's no need for emotional connections when you're just talking to a boulder. Social anxiety, he doesn't know her. Jin-yong checks in with the tiny man perched on his shoulder. His companion gives him a solid nod of approval. He's basically a pocket-sized gym bro coach. But now, even his imaginary friend is starting to get a little worried. He asks if Jin-yong is ever actually going to date anyone at this rate. Our hero's response? He's already decided to give up on romance entirely. He'd much rather be alone than risk being called a loser or a creep. After 5 years of stone vision, he's grown comfortable in his isolation. Honestly, relatable. He's totally checked out of the dating game. And since he's happy with it, Jason's fine with that, too, as long as his trainee is content. The tiny coach is on board. But as he's walking, a voice suddenly cuts through his thoughts. A hand reaches out, offering back the phone he didn't even realize he'd dropped. The girl young Sunwoo politely asks if it belongs to him. She's got long black hair and striking purple eyes, and it's clear she's just trying to be a decent person. She's a real, living human being. That's when our boy completely freezes. He looks up at her, and his brain hits a total fatal error. She asks why he's being so quiet, but he's too busy screaming internally. For the first time in forever, he's looking at a girl who doesn't look like a literal piece of granite. The system's definitely glitched. Panic doesn't even cover the state he's in. It's been literal years since he's seen an actual girl's face. He tries to stay calm, but his social skills have officially hit rock bottom. Sunwoo's just confused by the awkward silence. Meanwhile, Jin-yong is standing there in absolute awe of her details. She's a high-definition miracle. He's sweating bullets right now. This is what happens when you spend 5 years avoiding any and all eye contact. He's cooked. Finally, the pressure cracks him, and instead of playing it cool, he blurs out, "You're really pretty." Smooth move, Romeo. He immediately looks like he wants to sink into the pavement and disappear. She just stares back at him like she's looking at a very strange science experiment. She's still awkwardly holding out his phone, and her response is a very hesitant "thank you," which, hey, it's not a rejection. That's his cue to snatch the device and book it at light speed, yelling "and sorry," while he sprints for the hills. Sunwoo's just left standing there in his dust cloud, completely baffled. She's staring into the void, basically asking the universe what just happened. Meanwhile, he's running for his life and cursing himself for being a total idiot. His dignity's officially gone. He's spiraling now because he actually said that to a stranger, and he's terrified the whole school's gonna hear about it. He stares ahead with wide, panicked eyes, seeing his social life flash before him. Back at his place, the gloomy weather outside matches the storm of regret brewing in his head. Jason tries to play the supportive wingman, claiming the compliment was actually kind of charming, but our boy isn't buying it. They sit together while he just continues to wallow in his own embarrassment. He's stuck on a glitch. Why didn't she look like a block of granite? Jason doesn't have an answer for the rock mystery, so he pivots. He wants to know the plan for stopping the inevitable rumors. He warns his friend that doing nothing is just gonna let the gossip spread. It's a social death sentence. A memory of a girl calling him creepy hits him like a brick. He's terrified that history's about to repeat itself. Jason looks genuinely worried now. All that training was for nothing if his student breaks before the first bell. The poor guy just curls up on the floor in total despair. To snap him out of it, Jason hits him with a literal wake-up call. Jason punch. He rubs his head and tries to pull himself together. He needs a plan. Jason suggests the most basic strategy in the book. If he just avoids her, he won't have to deal with her face and melt. Our boy's on board because staying hidden is the only way he'll stay calm. As long as she's out of sight, his heart might actually stay in his chest. School looks bright and peaceful the next morning, but it's almost too quiet for comfort. That peace breaks when Sunwoo strolls right up with a massive smile, spotting him instantly and making his genius stealth plan look like a total skill issue. He's floored. Somehow, he's already run into the one person in the entire building he was trying to dodge. Jason's right there trying to keep him from having a total hallway meltdown, whispering for the kid to just act natural. Sunwoo introduces him to her friend, who's one of those blocky stone students. Jin-yong tries his best to play it cool while they're trapped in the tiled hallway. She drops the bombshell, telling her friend that he's the guy who called her pretty yesterday. He just stares into the void while feeling the weight of her attention. Poor guy's literally fighting for his life. The girl leans in with a playful pose, finger to her lip, and asks, "Am I pretty today as well?" She's definitely a pro at this. Sunwoo laughs it off like it's a game, but it's clearly torture for our guy. He decides his only survival tactic left is to just bolt down the hallway. Even Mustache Man gives him a pass for the tactical retreat. He knows staying any longer would have ended in a total social disaster. He's booking it because he's convinced that laugh was a direct hit to his dignity. While slowing down, Jin-yong adjusts his glasses and tells himself to stop having such weird, hopeless expectations. Behind him, Sunwoo stands there looking completely baffled as he disappears. He's officially done, though, vowing to never cross paths with her again for as long as he lives. The real problem is how high her resolution is compared to everyone else. She stands out way too much among the stone students, and their blocky gray bodies filling the school. She even tries to wave him down in the courtyard, but he treats her like she's literally invisible. He's committed to the bit. Our guy bolts past her before she can even get a full word out. He's even using his hands like blinkers to make sure they don't accidentally lock eyes. After that triple rejection, she looks like she just saw a glitch in the Matrix. Jin-yong finally catches his breath as the sun starts to dip. He's dragging his feet on the way home with his miniature friend. Apparently, playing a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek all day is a massive drain on his battery. The kid looks weary and is questioning every life choice that led to this moment. Facing a pretty girl as a personal final boss is tough work, but she's definitely not done with him yet. Sunwoo appears out of nowhere with a look that could melt glass, having clearly reached her limit. Jin-yong recoils in absolute shock as she corners him right on the street. There's no hallway to run down this time-just urban concrete, and a very annoyed student. He's trapped in her sights. She hits him with the hard truth and asks, "Are you running away again?" Geez. She starts listing his suspicious behavior like she's reading a police report. Every time he ignored her or looked away is being used against him right now. She flat out calls him a weirdo for how he's been acting. He's just standing there trembling because, honestly, he's got no defense for this. He realizes he's gone from mysterious guy to local creep in record time. If he doesn't explain himself right now, his reputation is completely toast. The words are sticking in his throat while she waits for an answer. He starts stuttering through a reason that's definitely going to sound insane once it's out. Jin-yong's thinking back to the sea of gray blocks he's forced to look at every single day. In his head, it's the only logical explanation for why he's so flustered. On a crosswalk lit by the sunset, he finally lets the crazy truth fly. He looks her in the eye and admits, "All other girls look like STONES to me except for you." The silence on that street is loud enough to shatter glass. She looks like she's been hit with a stun grenade, while he waits for the inevitable fallout. He's already regretting every single syllable that just left his mouth. Jin-yong internally calls out to Jason, hoping for some kind of miracle to save him from himself. Sunwoo stands there with her brain totally short-circuiting. It's easily the most bizarre compliment she's ever heard in her life. His hands won't stop shaking as the reality of his confession hits. He's sweating through his shirt and can't even find the courage to look her in the face. Sunwoo isn't even mad. She's actually finding his social disaster kind of adorable. She lets out a bright smile, totally ignoring the fact that he just compared her to a pebble in a sea of granite. She isn't letting him off the hook yet, leaning in to ask for his name on the quiet sidewalk. He can barely get the words Park Jin-yong out of his mouth without his brain turning into mashed potatoes. The temperature just spiked as she reaches out to adjust his tie, the sunset making the vibe way too romantic for a guy who thinks girls are building materials. She leans in with a look of total control and tells him, "What you just did was flirting." Jin-yong stares down at her in complete shock. He clearly wasn't ready for a girl to actually fire back like that. This is the exact situation the muscular mustache on his shoulder warned him about years ago. We're getting a look back at when a young Jin-yong first heard the sacred rules of his mentor, Jason. Rule number 1 was simple: treat all girls like stones to keep your cool. But since he's currently vibrating like a smartphone, it's safe to say that plan has officially crashed and burned. Rule number 2 was to never start spinning happy fantasies, yet his heart is already doing double time in his chest. One look at his bright red face tells you everything. He's already failing that one too. Sunwoo eventually walks away, leaving him in a total daze while he loops that childhood lecture in his head. He's desperate to figure out where his imaginary friend's logic went so wrong. She gives him a parting wave and a reminder to actually say hi next time. Meanwhile, the mental scoreboard in his head just keeps racking up the losses for that stone-cold theory. He has to glue his hand to his chest because his pulse is currently trying to break through his ribs. The fantasy-free zone has been fully breached, and he's blushing hard enough to light up the street. She keeps popping up in his head like a high-definition glitch, reminding him of his own embarrassing confession. He really did just tell her she's the only real person he can see. His imagination takes that one line and runs a marathon, playing out a whole life story of marriage and screaming kids. He's basically planned out their entire divorce before they've even had a first date. Jason has seen enough and delivers a physical reality check to the side of the kid's face. The mustache man is right because after 5 years of looking at rocks, our guy cannot think straight. They're both slumped on the floor now, admitting that the great avoidance strategy is a total dumpster fire. Jin-yong is at a loss, wondering if there's any way to fix the mess he just made. Jason points a finger like he's about to drop some serious wisdom on the next move. It all comes down to the ultimate goal, and right now, that goal is surviving a conversation without melting. Back then, that stone mindset was his only shield, letting him stay calm by simply refusing to feel anything. He stopped caring when girls called him a creep, but now that a real face has actually appeared, his protection has crumbled. The problem with building a wall is you eventually forget how to breathe outside of it, and the side effects of his theory are finally coming back to bite him. Jason explains that the kid has zero immunity to a real girl's face, which is the perfect opening for his inner loser to crawl out. The only way forward is building some composure, even if it feels impossible. He's sweating bullets knowing that if he doesn't change, he'll just repeat the same heartbreak from his past. There's still a way to fix this, though. The next morning at Gongjiam High looks normal enough, but the vibe in the halls is about to get very weird. He tries to practice that composure Jason mentioned, but it looks more like he's trying to set Sunwoo's hair on fire with his mind. She's actually sweating under the pressure of his intense, locked-in focus. The students around them are definitely noticing the heavy atmosphere, with Suk-young whispering that the kid looks less like a secret admirer and more like he's planning a heist. Jason is still riding shotgun on his shoulder, trying to talk him through this desensitization training. He tells the kid to stop looking so intense. Why not try a friendly smile? Jin-yong decides to take the advice. He peels back his lips into a shark-like smile. Sunwoo's reaction, pure terror. He looks like he's about to harvest her soul. Even the friends are noticing the vibe shift. Suk-young is shocked he's even acknowledging another human. They wonder if he actually thinks he's being sneaky. The muscle man on his shoulder is actually cringing. That expression is a total disaster. Our guy finally turns to walk away before the police get called. Sunwoo stands there watching him retreat. She's seriously trying to figure out if that was a legendary flex or just a pathetic cry for help. Meanwhile, the school gossip mill fills in the blanks. Jin-yong is actually popular because he treats everyone like ghosts. It turns out being a total loner is just a magnet for attention. The girls keep whispering as they huddle in the hallway. They're basically performing a forensic autopsy on his entire reputation. He's just trying to mind his own business. But the more he stays quiet, the more the school is convinced he's the mysterious, cool type. Suk-young can't help but tease her friend about all the eyes on her. Sunwoo tries to deny it, but she's definitely a little rattled. By the time they reach the crosswalk later that day, the mood has shifted. She finally admits that something about him has been eating at her. She actually flashes a smile. Don't tell me that nightmare of a grin actually worked. Back at school, the duo realizes their current strategy is a total bust. Turns out, watching girls like a predator isn't exactly the romantic win they expected. Our boy finally points out the obvious flaw here. If he keeps following her, he's basically just a stalker. He needs a way to study her face without ending up on a watch list. Jin-yong is stuck between being a loser or a creep. He's about 5 seconds away from flicking his companion right off his shoulder, so he suggests a digital workaround instead. Sifting through her photos feels way safer than trailing her in person. Jason gives him the green light to go hunt down her handle. He is trapped between two bad options. Snooping still feels like a low blow, but his mentor is already playing the role of his harshest critic, so he actually goes for it. He marches right up with his phone locked in a death grip. He stammers out a request for her handle. Sunwoo's taken aback for a second, but she quickly flashes a smile and agrees. She grabs the phone to type it in herself. He's internally screaming because things are finally going well. She starts scrolling for the search bar. She goes quiet. Her expression shifts to pure confusion. The screen shows a big fat 0 for every single stat. No posts, no followers, nothing. It's the world's most suspicious blank slate. She asks if he really made this account just for her. Naturally, he starts stammering like a broken record. He admits he set it up in a rush. She starts laughing like it's the funniest thing she's ever heard. She hits him with a realization. She's the first and only person he's ever searched for. The reality of it hits him like a brick. His face shifts to pure horror. Confessing his obsession like this is a new low. While she's howling in the hallway, he's busy cursing his own lack of foresight. Even Jason looks genuinely concerned for once. He tells our boy he's fully cooked this time. He stammers out a pathetic excuse about how she was just the first person he saw after signing up. He's down bad. Sunwoo just laughs off his desperate defense. She stops mid-stride, eyeing him with a look that says she's up to no good. With those purple eyes sparkling, she teases him by asking if he wants her phone number next. Our guy's completely paralyzed. His brain is basically a dial-up modem, trying to download a 4K movie. He can't even form a sentence while his face starts to melt. She just laughs and gives his chest a playful smack, admitting she was only joking about the digits. After trailing him for a second, she hands his phone back with a cheery "I followed you." She tells him he'd better like her posts before strolling off. Jin-yong is left standing there in a total daze. His brain immediately starts playing a highlight reel of their entire future together. Jason has to cut the fantasy short. Seriously, he's gotta stop planning the wedding in his head already. Night falls over the city. Back at her place, Sunwoo's still wide awake. She's scrolling through his feed and laughing, because his social media presence is just tragic. Honestly, the guy's selfie game is a total skill issue. Meanwhile, Jin-yong is out cold in his bone-patterned pajamas. His phone lights up the dark room. She actually liked his photo. By the next day, Suk-young is convinced their classmate is a total enigma. But Sunwoo's sure she can prove he isn't nearly as cold as he acts. So the black-haired girl offers to show her friend exactly what makes him so special. Back at school, Jin-yong catches a racket in the hallway and turns to see what the deal is. It's Suk-young gunning for an Oscar with a fake injury. She's even sparkling while she begs for help. Instead of falling for it, he just gives her a look that's pure zero chill. He's got the social awareness of a brick. She's left completely stunned by his total lack of concern. He just grabs her hoodie and hauls her up like a sack of potatoes. She watches him walk off without a single word. That rough rescue leaves her totally flustered. Sunwoo is losing it. He pulled you up like he was pulling up a radish. The girl in the yellow hoodie looks ready to throw hands. To him, she's still the only one who doesn't look like a block of granite. The school day just carries on from there. Later, he admits he's still struggling with her face. He gets flustered just thinking about her. Her photo looks different every single time he stares. Jason's convinced they need to find the root cause of this anomaly. They have to know why she's resisting the training. Jin-yong stops while his mentor lists wild theories. But as if on cue, the long-haired girl appears right nearby. She's just as surprised to see him standing there. Jin-yong practically jumps out of his skin when she pops up out of nowhere. He clutches his chest as if his heart's trying to make a break for it. The immediate flush on his face proves he's definitely not playing it cool. Sunwoo drops the classic damsel line about needing bus fare to get home, but he's genuinely baffled when she mentions her destination is Simo Village Apartments. He points out that the place is right in front of them and a 5-minute walk. She doesn't miss a beat, though, insisting it's not as simple as it looks. She flashes a mysterious smile. Apparently, she's got chronic anemia, which turns a short stroll into a survival mission. Jin-yong pulls out his last bit of cash to save the day, but she's not interested in the money. She claims taking it would look like extortion and demands he walk her home instead. She starts crossing the street before he can even process the request. He's left standing there frozen, wondering how he got drafted into this escort mission so fast. She talks a mile a minute while he trails along like a silent bodyguard. It's a total one-sided conversation, but she doesn't seem to mind the lack of input. Jin-yong's turning bright red as his brain short-circuits from the proximity. He can't hear a word she's saying over the sound of his own internal screaming. He's sweating bullets because this whole setup feels way too familiar for comfort. Awkwardness level 10. We get a peek into his trauma vault from back when he actually liked a girl. He'd walk home with a classmate named Kim Minji every single day after school. That is, until some random student spotted them and started chanting about them being a couple. Minji didn't just deny it. She looked like she wanted to scrub the rumor off her skin with bleach. She declared she'd never date someone like him in front of the whole school. His middle school romance died right then. Jin-yong drifts back into the dark void of his own memories. The relationship evaporated before he even had the guts to say something. Back in reality, he's just praying for this sidewalk to end. But Sunwoo's watching him with a look that says she knows exactly what's going through his head. A sharp gasp of pain suddenly cuts through his spiraling thoughts. Sunwoo's collapsed on the ground, looking like she's about to pass out right there on the bricks. He panics, asking if she tripped. She just blames the hill for making her anemia act up and claims the whole world's spinning. She reaches out a hand, practically forcing him to help her up. Since he's not a monster, he takes it, but he's clearly vibrating with stress. They slow to a crawl while he supports her weight. He's looking at his own hand like it's a foreign object now that he's actually touched her. She leans into him with a satisfied blush. She's definitely putting in the work. Now he's terrified his brain is about to start another one of those wedding planning films. He tries to ignore the mental drama and just focuses on keeping her steady. Sunwoo starts giggling about the way he hauled Suk-young up earlier. He tries to play dumb, but he's failing the poker face test miserably. They finally hit her front door, and mission accomplished. He mumbles his goodbyes, feeling the weight of the world lift off his shoulders. A massive sigh of relief escapes him now that the danger zone's clear. Too much social interaction for one day. He heads off into the sunset, hoping she finds some vitamins or bus fare before tomorrow. Anything to keep the rom-coms from playing in his head again. They split up under the orange sky. The job's done and the debt's paid, so he finally thinks he's off the hook. But of course, the universe loves a sequel. It's never that easy, though. Sunwoo freezes mid-step like she just realized she left the stove on. Damn, I almost forgot. He flinches when she bellows his name across the neighborhood. She explains her allowance is basically in a coma for the next few weeks, which means she's officially broke. She flashes a smile that would make a saint nervous. I'll be counting on you again tomorrow, okay? He's huffing like he just ran a marathon, his head spinning from the mixed signals. Back home, Jason is playing detective, studying his friend like a specimen under a microscope. He wants to know why our guy looks like he won the lottery while he's busy complaining. He claims he wants this torture to end, but his face is a total traitor. He's just standing there with a goofy grin that practically glows. A pained groan from the pavement snaps him out of the daydream. He finds Sunwoo gasping for air on the ground because her cardio is basically non-existent. Morning hits and Suk-young is already training for a pro wrestling career. She's landing low kicks on the air, promising to turn Jin-yong into a human punching bag. Meanwhile, the muscular mentor is still digging for the truth. He's not buying the surface-level excuses and wants to know what's really fueling the obsession. Jin-yong cuts the therapy session short and grabs his bag. He's gotta get to school before his brain melts from the heavy questions. He suits up in his crisp uniform and red tie, ready for the drama. He stops dead at the door when he spots his father standing there like a silent statue. Father, he gives a stiff, polite bow, though the distance between them feels wider than the actual hallway. He turns down an offer for breakfast, claiming his stomach just isn't in the mood. His dad mentions the home-cooked stew his mom made, but he's already halfway out the door, promising to deal with the kimchi jjiggy once he actually survives the school day. The old man tells him to take care of himself as he heads out. Yes, father. He pauses for a second, looking down as the weight of the day hits him before it even starts. He's already tensing up, the pressure in his own head making him falter. A vision of Sunwoo in that yellow hoodie pops into his mind. She's the only bright spot in his world, making everything else fade to black. He reaches the school gates with that miniature advisor, still hitching a ride on his shoulder. He's starting to realize he might be permanently stuck under her thumb. He's just praying she's wrong. Jin-yong feels a pair of eyes burning into the back of his head, and turns to find a very familiar yellow hoodie. Suk-young is standing there with her arms crossed, looking like she's about to collect a debt. She doesn't even offer a greeting before dropping a casual threat about hitting him right then and there. Talk about a warm welcome. He's understandably confused, especially when she admits she stayed up all night practicing low kicks for him. But then she pulls a total 180 and asks who he even is. She starts having a full-blown existential crisis on the floor, but he's way past being polite. He just hauls her up by the hoodie like she's a misbehaving kitten. Suk-young's decided that 3 solid low kicks are the only way to settle the score. Unsurprisingly, he's not exactly lining up to get his leg broken. A brutal strike lands as she calls him a four-eyed jerk for good measure. Jin-yong books it down the hallway. The chase is on, and she's making sure he knows her cardio is elite compared to Sunwoo's fragile condition. One look back and he sees his life flashing before his eyes. She's picking up speed like a runaway freight train with no brakes in sight. To him, it's like being hunted by a massive, rolling boulder. Our guy's luck finally runs out when she closes the gap and declares he's caught. The wind-up is already starting. He tenses for the impact, but a new player enters the chat from around the corner. Sunwoo pops her head out to see what all the screaming is about. Suk-young's kick is already in flight, and it connects directly with the wrong target's shin. She gasps in sudden pain as the accidental strike lands with full force. In half a second, the vibe shifts from comedy to a medical emergency. She's on the floor now, clutching her ankle after a total ligament tear. Jin-yong tries to rush to her side, but his own luck is in the gutter today. His foot slips right out of his slide at the worst possible moment. Down he goes, glasses flying as his face meets the linoleum with a sickening crunch. That's a nasal bone fracture. Looking down at the wreckage, she feels like she just accidentally took out a small army. All she can do is offer a weak apology for the double casualty. Now we're in the nurse's office. The smell of rubbing alcohol and regret hangs heavy. Jin-yong's rocking a massive nose bandage, while he and Sunwoo recover in their respective beds. She tries to laugh off the chaos, claiming her friend's always been a bit of a loose cannon. Since they're suddenly alone in this quiet room, he starts sweating bullets. Meanwhile, Jason is living his best life over a cup of tea, flexing his English just because he can. It's a vibe, but Jin-yong's too busy panicking over the awkward silence to care about tea time. Sunwoo's having the exact same internal battle, begging her own brain not to say something incredibly dumb. She finally breaks the ice by asking about the lunch menu, and he's happy to report the catch of the day. It's fried yellow croaker, which is easily a top-tier meal. That leads into a breakfast debate where she admits she usually skips it to avoid seeing her dad in the morning. It sounds like she's got some heavy family stuff going on under the surface. He stares off into space, drifting back to the very first time they ever spoke. He's back in that brick hallway, remembering the moment he blurted out that she was pretty. Back then, he swore it was just a side effect of not seeing a girl for ages, but the present is telling a different story. Looking at her now, he realizes that his memory didn't even do her justice. She catches him staring and smirks, asking if he thinks she's really that pretty. He hits full panic mode and lets out a nervous laugh while scrambling for an excuse. Luckily, she lets him off the hook with a giggle, admitting she was just messing with him. He's still reeling, while she confesses that teasing him has become her favorite hobby. She's clearly having a field day. She isn't backing down, explaining that he makes it way too easy by getting flustered. Apparently, the second someone pokes at him, he starts saying the weirdest things. She brushes off the apology with a laugh. She drops the word adorable like a flashbang, leaving him completely stunned. He has to look away as his face turns bright red, wondering if Jason might actually be right. It's hard to ignore her long black hair and purple eyes when she's the only person here who doesn't look like a stone. That mystery still haunts him, especially since his brain refuses to turn her into a statue like everyone else. He's currently cycling through his wildest theories to explain this specific glitch in his perception. Jason notices the struggle and leans in with a look of extreme focus. He's finally ready to drop the truth bomb about why she stands out. The verdict is simple: you just fell for Sunwoo at first sight. Right now, he's too dazed to even come up with a better explanation. He's officially lost the plot. Meanwhile, the mustachioed internal advisor is chilling in a fancy chair with some tea. He acts like he's way more than just a figment of a high schooler's imagination. The two of them share a final moment of shock in the infirmary before the bell rings. But time doesn't stop for a crush, and they're soon dragged back into the grind at Gonggam High. We jump straight to a chaotic lesson where he's somehow holding onto Suk-young while she screams. She's clearly not vibing with whatever hardcore training he's trying to start. She isn't having it and demands he take some responsibility for his actions. Now she's fuming, winding up for a strike that looks powerful enough to dent a tank. She unleashes a brutal middle kick that catches both of them in the crossfire. Jin-yong ends the day on the floor. Jason sits bolt upright in bed. He looks like he just saw a ghost. Our boy is drenched in sweat and gasping for air, as if he just ran a marathon in his sleep. The mustache man is right there, noting the panic. Jason, you're gasping for breath. That's because his nightmare wasn't about monsters, but a vision of Sunwoo looking at him with pure, soul-crushing disgust. Watching that look in his head makes him wonder if all that old trauma with girls is finally bubbling back to the surface. It's not a one-off either. He admits this dream's been on a loop lately. Ever since that theory about his crush first popped up, he hasn't had a moment's peace. The mustache man doesn't sugarcoat the situation. If the theory holds water, this is unrequited love. The reality hits hard, and our boy's heart sinks. Since things are serious, it's time for some tactical advice. To win this war, he's gotta know the enemy just as well as he knows himself. The advisor is on a motorcycle. He's really laning into the whole bit. Once he's back at school, he decides it's time for a little recon work. He quickly realizes he actually knows next to nothing about her. He manages to find her classroom, but the nerves are hitting hard. He stalls at the door while his little buddy tries to talk him into it. Poking his head inside, he finds the room mostly empty. Sunwoo is nowhere to be found. A sudden voice cuts through his confusion. I am Jumin looms over him like a brick wall. That's my seat. Caught off guard, our guy instinctively steps back. The big guy doesn't even acknowledge him, just shoves past like he's not even there. His little buddy is ready to throw hands over the disrespect. He ignores the urge to scrap, though, and just asks if this is where she sits. Jimin won't give him a straight answer. Instead, he just mocks the poor guy for falling for a girl like her. Inside his head, the internal advisor is practically loading a machine gun. He begs Jason to just endure it one last time. But the fuse blows when the jerk calls Sunwoo a trashy girl. He demands to know where she's gone, though all he gets back is more insults. The disrespect is non-stop. Jimin looks up with a bored face and calls him a total lost cause. Jason's finally heard enough and starts ripping his jacket off. He tells the big guy to stand up. He puts his whole soul into the swing. The heavy fabric slams right into Jimin, and the impact sends the larger boy reeling backward. The classroom door slides open. Sunwoo's standing there wondering why the place sounds like a slaughterhouse. Our guy starts yelling out his justification. She just smiles and tells him to keep hitting the guy. The tension breaks instantly. Turns out, these two have actually been close since they were toddlers. Jimin's still pouting in the background. She confirms they're childhood friends and moves on. Later, they find a bench to talk it out. Jason offers a quick apology for the jacket slap. It turns out their history goes all the way back to when they were 3. Our boy's feeling like a master of reconnaissance. He's ready to execute his strategy to learn more about Sunwoo. But Jimin drops a heavy warning. He tells him to give up on her immediately. Apparently, Sunwoo is popular enough to fill a fleet of trucks with her admirers. Despite that, her dating life is a total wasteland. She hasn't had a single successful romance in her entire life. Jason tries to play it cool, checking out her 2,000 followers and wondering if she's just incredibly picky. He's clearly huffing some serious hopium, praying he's the exception to the rule. Jimin just shakes his head, though. He's got a much darker reason for telling him to back off. They've been inseparable since they were kids, constantly stuck in the same schools and spending every waking moment together. It all felt normal enough until middle school, which is when things took a turn for the weird. Back then, Jimin was a total brat. He'd call her a trashy woman and demand she run errands for him like she was his servant. The kid was a real menace. But then she turned around. For the first time, her eyes were a striking red that felt completely wrong. Jimin froze, realizing the girl standing there wasn't the friend he knew at all. She had that same smile on her face, but the energy coming off her was fundamentally off-putting. It was a bone-chilling vibe that still haunts him to this day. That's why he's so insistent that Jin-yong should walk away while he still can. Our boy looks up at the school building, trying to wrap his head around what "something felt off" actually means. He figures it's safe to ignore the warning, since it sounds like a weird personal grudge. It's probably fine, famous last words. Just then, a cheerful voice cuts through the hallway and catches them both off guard. Sunwoo and Suk-young are standing right there, teasing them for becoming best buds so quickly. Jin-yong starts sweating, frantically trying to cook up a lie that won't get him killed. But his new friend has other plans, and just screams that they were busy talking trash about her. The betrayal is instant and absolute. He just stares in horror, wondering how anyone can be this socially illiterate. Sunwoo towers over them on a desk, her face practically screaming that someone is about to pay for their sins. The hallway drops into a deadly silence, while the weight of that insult sinks in. She looks genuinely hurt, asking if they've really been backstabbing her this whole time. Suk-young just finds the whole thing hilarious, and laughs that she always knew he was a bit of a snake. To make matters worse, Jimin keeps doubling down, bragging about how hard he trashed her. That's the final straw. Our boy yells for him to shut it and whips his jacket like a flail. The heavy impact sends the larger student flying through the air. Jason is loving the violence. He's even mimicking a machine gun, claiming he would have finished the job himself if the kid hadn't stepped up. Instead of intervening, the girls just watch the chaos like a weird zoo exhibit before deciding to pretend these idiots don't exist. Sunwoo's got a classic sweat drop as she watches them scramble away. By the time he's passing the Simo village apartments later that evening, the reality of the situation finally sets in. He's planning his own funeral. Inside his head, his tiny general is busy pointing fingers at the other guy for ruining the entire reconnaissance mission. But the real problem is the girl lurking in the background, looking ready to claim a soul for that nonsense he was spouting earlier. Our guy turns around only to find the nightmare has caught up to him with a terrifyingly sweet tone. She gets right in his personal space to ask if talking trash behind her back was actually an enjoyable experience. He nearly jumps out of his skin when she drops his name like a judge, passing a final sentence. It's sinking in that this girl is a lot to handle even when she isn't actively trying to end him. She just bursts out laughing with enough sparkles to blind him. He tries to explain he wasn't actually trash talking, but she's already brushed it off with a cheerful wave. She gives him a playful smack and blames the whole mess on the other guy being a total clown. She drops the trap. Since she supposedly broke again, he's stuck walking her all the way home. Just the thought of that brutal uphill climb has Jin-yong's blood pressure spiking. Even the mustache man has to fess up. They weren't being malicious, but they were definitely talking smack behind her back. His tiny advisor figures it's probably safer to keep that particular tea to themselves for now. Meanwhile, Sunwoo is already at the base of the slope, loudly announcing her absolute hatred for anything that isn't level ground. Our guy lets out a sharp gasp as he realizes exactly where this is heading. He asks if a simple road is seriously a boss fight for her to handle. She just shoots back a reminder that her chronic anemia makes any kind of incline a total nightmare for her energy levels. She isn't looking for a hand to hold, though. She wants a manual override and tells him to start pushing. He hesitates for a second, but she snaps at him to hurry it up if he ever wants to see his bed tonight. He finally places his hands on her back, feeling the awkwardness radiate through his entire soul. It actually works, and she admits that having a human motor makes the climb way more manageable. She lets out a giggle, complaining that his hands are actually tickling her through the fabric. She then drops the bombshell that she's actually super sensitive about anyone touching her back. Our boy is barely holding it together, while she drops lines that are way too much for him to handle. His brain starts drifting, already spiraling into a series of what-ifs about their potential future. While his hands are busy pushing, his mind is deep in a rom-com montage. He's picturing a future where he's actually carrying her like a hero, instead of just being her personal forklift. Jason is in the corner, giving him a standing ovation for this top-tier daydreaming. Jin-yong tries to play it off, claiming a little harmless imagination shouldn't be a crime. Reality hits him like a bucket of ice when she screams his name to pull him back to the sidewalk. Since he was lost in thought, he was pushing her way too fast, and now she's actually gasping for air. He's frantically apologizing with his hands up, while she tries to get her lungs back online. He's sweating buckets, realizing he nearly ended her life with his romantic pacing. They finally reach the balcony, and the view's so good it kills the tension instantly. It's quiet and peaceful up here, so Jin-yong finally gets why she bothered. She's looking around like she just discovered a new continent, which catches our boy completely off guard. It turns out even though she lives right here, she's never actually seen this spot before. Her health usually keeps her locked in the lowlands, making this a genuine first. She still finds the energy to threaten him for nearly ending her on the way up, though. The sky's turning some wild colors while they stand there in the quiet. Since he managed to show her something this beautiful, she grants him a stay of execution. Our guy's still a nervous wreck, but he can't look away from the scene in front of him. She looks genuinely peaceful for once, just soaking it in and calling it beautiful. As the evening settles, he can't help but think back to that warning about her. He just doesn't see the monster. He's lost in thought on the bridge. The sunset's doing its best to set a romantic mood. Light hits his glasses while he tries to find the right words. She breaks the silence first with a quick, "Hey, Sunwoo." He pulls the honesty card and admits it's true. He was talking about her with Jumin. She's totally blindsided by the sudden confession. After explaining how their childhood connection sparked his curiosity, the confession lands soft. "Wanted to know more about you." That sincere line hits her hard enough to pull out a blush. Our guy panics and swears he wasn't talking trash. He rubs his head, hoping she doesn't think he's a creep. She just laughs it off like it's yesterday's news. But the real test comes when they reach those high-rise apartments. Even with that smile, she turns away with a look he can't quite read. They pass the high-rise apartments on the final stretch home. Since it's all downhill now, her chronic anemia finally gets a break. He watches her wave goodbye before she vanishes around the corner. He looks like he survived a boss fight. Jason perches on his shoulder like a feathered philosopher. It doesn't take long for Jin-yong to start second-guessing his own truth bomb. His tiny advisor suggests that some secrets are better left in the vault. She walks off alone, her eyes hidden as she keeps her head down. The vibe has shifted. His confession is stuck on repeat. She keeps walking as the sun sets, finishing the final trek home. It's way too quiet. Her tank finally hits empty, and she drops right onto the concrete. Nearby, a couple of classmates are too busy fighting over bread to notice. Elsewhere, we find a guy randomly crouching in the middle of a path. The student behind him is completely baffled. A sharp white blazer suddenly appears. This is Jo Hangyul, a 26-year-old teacher who carries a terrifying aura. She asks if he's actually trying to die today. He's sweating bullets just looking up at her. Instead of letting him up, she physically slams his head down toward the floor. He can barely breathe and has to ask why she's acting so aggressive for no reason. She just deadpans that people look ugly from A. Girls have a reputation to maintain, after all. Hangyul leans in, blushing slightly while calling him a brat for making such a public scene. She eventually stalks off with a warning to never hit the brakes that hard while walking again. Jin-yong watches her go, adjusting his glasses and acting like he doesn't care about the threat. But even now, a stone-textured version of the teacher towers in his mind as a reminder of his near-death experience. Nearby, a classmate is just stretching, unaware she's the only real person in his field of vision. The truth is, he's so afraid of being rejected that every girl has become a literal block of granite in his eyes. To hide from that fear, He buried himself in books and gym sessions to build a version of himself he could be proud of. He pushed through the grind for years, lifting weights until his muscles screamed and he was completely wiped out. It paid off because during the big game, he sends the soccer ball flying with a strike that hits with absolute precision. The keeper dives, but he's just grasping at air as the ball ripples the back of the net. His classmates swarm him with high fives, thrilled to have the star player on their side of the field. Meanwhile, the sweating goalie stands there in silence while the other team plots a total comeback. A couple of girls walk past the courtyard, already complaining about the locker room smelling like a gym bag. But they stop dead when they spot the celebration on the grass. They realize the star is actually Park Jin-yong and start whispering to each other. One of them even releases a high-pitched scream that probably shattered a few windows. Over on the stairs, a group of girls is gushing about how he stands out like he owns the place. Someone yells his name across the field, making the black-haired girl look up to see what the hype's about. To these girls, his total lack of interest isn't rude. It's actually a massive flex. Suk-young is not having it, though, and calls them out for losing their minds over a guy who barely even acknowledges they exist. She honestly doesn't get why he's so popular, finding those cool and sexy labels to be a massive stretch. Sunwoo just listens in silence, watching him while she thoughtfully swirls a lollipop around. Her mind drifts back to how he used to be, remembering him shaking like a leaf and looking like a total mess of pure anxiety. One monochrome memory shows her walking right beside him, laughing at some joke that actually managed to land. Back in the present, she stands out in the schoolyard and lets out a genuine laugh at the memory. The school day finally starts to wind down as music notes drift over the campus buildings. Over on the field, the track team is still cheering for Jin-yong, giving him all the credit for their big win after that insane performance. Our boy is spent. He's dripping sweat after the match, so he cranks the metal handle of a nearby sink until a blast of cold water hits the basin. He leans in deep, splashing the freezing water over his face to wake his senses back up. A voice suddenly calls it an impressive shot, and he looks up to see the keeper standing there. Juman admits he's shocked anyone could actually slip a ball past his defense. Trying to be a good sport, our guy tells the big man he was a total beast in the net today. But Juman just grimaces, calling his own performance a total disgrace. They stand by the sinks as Juman starts lecturing him on the dark side of soccer. He explains that the goalie is always the first one to get thrown under the bus, the second a team loses. The pressure of blocking 10 shots only to get blamed for the 11th one is a lot to handle. Juman looks him dead in the eye and admits he straight up hates him for making that shot. Jason's already reaching for his axe, his face going ice cold at the disrespect. Jin-yong has to talk his tiny shoulder buddy down before he actually tries to end the guy. Since words aren't working, he cups his hands under the faucet to gather a massive dose of cold water. He just grins, says a gift for you, and splashes it right into the big man's face. Juman lets out a scream as the chill hits, and his glasses fog up instantly. This is war now. The two of them dive into a full-blown water fight right there in the courtyard. He's still duking it out over the tap, refusing to budge even as his own glasses start sliding down his nose. He has the nerve to call his rival a bespectacled bastard, which is pretty rich coming from a guy wearing the exact same lenses. Over on the track, Suk-young and Sunwoo hear the chaos and wonder why the goalie and Jin-yong are screaming their lungs out. Curiosity wins out, so they head over to see what kind of weird stuff the boys are up to now. By the time they get close, Jin-yong is so drenched he looks like he just crawled out of a lake. He's busy complaining about his soaked clothes, while the big guy stands there with a smug look on his face. Juman suggests just wringing the shirt out like it's no big deal, and that's the final straw. Our guy peels off his uniform to show off a physique that's pure main character energy. Talk about a glow-up. The girls finally reach them and ask why they're still hanging around after the bell, but Jin-yong just turns into a statue. The realization that he's standing there half-naked in front of his crush hits him like a truck. The view is definitely working for them, though, because they're both blushing harder than a sunset. Yeah, they're down bad. They can't even look away from the absolute show unfolding on the school grounds. But then the vibe shifts the second they notice Juman standing there without a shirt, too. It's instant, total disgust. They look like they just walked into a landfill instead of a school courtyard. Juman starts sweating bullets, while the girls treat the sight of him like a biological hazard. They don't waste another second, turning on their heels and leaving with the kind of side-eye that could actually kill a man. One of them even goes as far as to sincerely apologize to Sunwoo for making her witness that tragedy. Jin-yong shoots a death glare at his buddy, knowing his reputation just hit rock bottom. He looks like his soul is leaving his body because Sunwoo saw him in such a pathetic state. He finally snaps and goes for the throat. He blames the pig for ruining his entire life. The girls are long gone, but the petty argument over who owns the glasses aesthetic continues to echo in the distance. Sunwoo is still blushing at the memory, so it's clear he made a huge impression even if it was for the wrong reasons. She's stuck picturing a stylized version of him, declaring she's the only one he sees. The sun rises on a new day. It's time for a fresh start on the field. Jin-yong launches a thunderous shot toward the goal that looks ready to rip the net. But Jumin meets it head-on, catching the ball against his chest with a heavy thud. The crowd is stunned the big guy actually stopped that rocket of a shot. He lets out a laugh and starts gloating about the block. It's a miracle redemption arc. He mocks Jin-yong for losing his touch compared to the absolute fire he was bringing yesterday. Our boy just stares at the grass and curses his luck. His shooting is a total fumble today. Watching from the sidelines, Jason can tell his student is clearly out of his element. Once the first half finally ends, the exhausted striker drags himself toward the bleachers just to survive. He collapses onto a stone ledge, trying to get some feeling back into his legs. He exhales a heavy breath. He looks like he just ran a marathon in a desert. A voice comments on how dead he looks, catching him completely off guard while he's trying to recover. He looks up to find Sunwoo standing right over him with a smile. She really has a knack for appearing at the worst times. He nearly jumps out of his skin when he realizes his crush is inches away from his face. A strangled noise escapes his throat as he realizes exactly where she's standing. He frantically tells her to get down, but she just stares at him like he's lost his mind. His face turns bright red because he's suddenly remembering some very specific social advice from Teacher Hangul. The teacher warned him that girls look ugly when seen from below. But looking up at her now, he realizes the view is actually giving him a heart attack. She's stunning. She sits beside him and asks why he's treating her face like a crime scene. He admits he's just trying to protect her, since most girls hate being seen from this angle. She teases him by asking if she's ugly, which makes him practically trip over his own tongue to deny it. He finally drops the filter and tells her she looks pretty even from down here. Bold move. He turns a shade of pink, usually reserved for ripe strawberries, after dropping that bombshell. Meanwhile, she rests her chin on her hand, clearly enjoying the attention. The realization hits him like a brick. He's walked into her territory without a map. He's been played. Jason's cackling at the disaster from his mental armchair, reminding the kid he fell for the exact same bait Sunwoo dangled earlier. Since he's zero help, he just asks what the plan is now that his student has declared her pretty. The mustache man decides he's seen enough awkwardness and tells the kid to figure it out himself. Cold betrayal. He sits there clutching his skull to keep his thoughts from leaking out. Retracting the compliment would just make it weirder. Total self-sabotage. She stays quiet for a moment, letting the tension simmer while she studies the mess she's created. She leans on her hand with a small smile, clearly finding his panic adorable. She finally breaks the silence to chirp, "Thanks for the compliment." They sit on the concrete steps together, though he's mostly wondering if he can skip the part where he dies of embarrassment. She explains that a compliment beats being ignored any day. She mentions hearing other girls call him cool and sexy all the time. Since when? He practically trips over his own hands, waving away the idea of being a heartthrob. Our boy's in total denial since he's spent his whole life hiding from the social scene. Still, she insists those girls aren't wrong about him. He just gets a single bead of sweat rolling down his face from the pressure of being praised. He can't help himself and fishes for which parts of him are supposedly cool. She gives him a soft, thoughtful look as she preps her list. This is the part where the music starts playing. He's already imagining himself as some shirtless, muscular god to match the heat. She blushes and raises a hand, ready to break down why he's such a catch. She leans in close, closing the distance until he's basically breathing in her shampoo. She tells him he's cool in a lot of ways. His soul's ascending. He can only stare back in total shock. She beams at him with those purple eyes, letting the moment hang. This girl's a total pro, but the romantic bubble pops when a teammate drags him back to the pitch. He shakes off the daze and heads back in. Duty calls. Sunwoo waves from the stairs, shouting for him to bring home a win. A cheerleader like that's basically a cheat code. He stands on the grass and barks for the match to get moving. He glances at the horizon, finally processing everything Jason told him. He's locked in. The second half kicks off, and the difference is night and day. He carves through the defense like his body's made of air. Jason's watching with a smug grin, playing the wise sage. He asks how that happened. He already knows what changed. It's the oldest trick in the book. The logic's simple. He's performing for the girl on the bleachers. Her gaze is better than any energy drink. Jason's finally starting to walk back those cynical warnings he gave earlier. Twirling that ridiculous mustache, he admits that maybe, just maybe, these feelings aren't a total disaster after all. The ball rips into the net with enough force to take a head off. Jin-yong's circuits are firing. Even the mustache man finally approves. His teammates swarm him, crowning him the match's undisputed MVP. He lets out a massive laugh. It's officially the best day of his life. Meanwhile, Jumin is stewing on the sidelines, swearing he'll never forgive this loss. But the big guy can't hide that smile for long. He's proud of his friend, even if he'd never admit it out loud. As school lets out, the sun dips low over the apartments, but Jin-yong's still riding that high from the game. A woman in glasses watches from a distance, muttering about how happy the two of them look. She calls Sunwoo a brat, but it's obvious she knows she's seeing a new power couple in the making. Jin-yong tries to play it cool by claiming he's just grabbing a snack on the way home. He's starving, but sitting across from his dad feels less like a meal and more like a high-stakes interrogation. He just watches his father eat in total silence. The awkwardness is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Even his internal hype man tells him to fuel up. "You definitely look well-fed," Jason declares while looking like a five-star chef. Mom drops a pair of theater tickets on the table like a surprise side quest. She tells him to grab a friend and actually go have a life this weekend. The tickets were meant for his parents, but Dad's stuck at the office indefinitely. So now Jin-yong's got the passes, but no clue who to invite. He starts scanning the room like a tactical simulation to find a plus one. He spots a girl with glasses, but she's just an NPC in this rom-com. One friend claims he's catching a cold in the future, which is honestly a legendary excuse for being lazy. The resident muscle passes too, since he's already got a date with a fistfight at Nemo High. Next, he turns to the big man on campus, but Juman shuts him down before he can even finish the pitch. Apparently, the theater just isn't his vibe. Jin-yong assumes the big guy would rather stay home and watch anime than see a live play. "I don't even watch anime," Juman replies, immediately killing that stereotype. As his friend heads for the snack bar, our guy is left to sit there and marinate in his own biases. He realizes he was just judging a book by its cover. Jason points out how dangerous those assumptions can be, before reminding him he's officially out of options. Everyone swiped left on his theater date. He's high and dry. Our boy lets out a nervous laugh, while his brain short-circuits over that empty seat. That's when the mustache man tells him it's time to stop lying to himself. He hits the nail on the head. "You want to go with Sunwoo," the spirit declares, reading him like an open book. Trying to act shocked doesn't work, as that secret crush is written all over his face in high definition. Jason pushes him to finally make a move before this chance evaporates for good. A sharp voice snaps him out of his internal panic. Teacher Hangyul is standing there with her arms crossed, just waiting for a proper greeting. Jin-yong makes the rookie mistake of admitting he was spacing out while walking. The teacher asks if he has an imaginary friend, which hits way too close to home. Panic sets in as he wonders if his spirit protector is actually visible to normal people. She's way too perceptive. They take a seat on a nearby bench to actually talk through the situation. He finally admits there's a girl he wants to invite, even if his confidence is currently in the basement. Hangyul casually mentions Sunwoo's popularity, and the shock nearly sends our guy tumbling off the bench. "How did you know it was Sunwoo?" he asks, officially hitting panic mode. It turns out she was eavesdropping yesterday when he told Sunwoo she looked pretty even from A. He lets out a wordless yell as his soul basically leaves his body. The teacher shifts gears and asks if he's just paralyzed by the fear of being rejected. He sits in total silence, unable to deny that she hit a nerve. Jin-yong admits it's embarrassing, but she explains that inviting a girl to a play is making a massive statement. Asking her on a date, she says, making the stakes crystal clear. He can only look away. She calls his plan a straight-up confession with zero room for error. The teacher calls him a spineless loser before strutting away with a smirk. She claims he'll thank her later, which usually means chaos is coming. She heads straight for Sunwoo's group like a homing missile. Jin-yong watches in horror as she announces to the whole squad that he has something very important to say. Sunwoo looks stunned as the teacher drops the bomb in front of everyone. She announces that he wants to take her to a play, making him scream, "Teacher Hangyul." The local mean girls start cackling at the fact that he needs a teacher's help just to talk to a girl. Jin-yong can only scream in frustration as his social life burns to the ground. As the teacher struts off, she leaves the sharks to circle her victim. The classmates don't miss a beat, telling the squad to go have a talk with him about his big weekend plans. He's cooked. He realizes he's backed into a corner where every exit is labeled as a confession. If he goes through with this, it counts as a date, and there's no coming back. Instead of looking annoyed, Sunwoo just blushes and asks, "Do you want to go with me?" Jin-yong's brain completely stalls out in the middle of the hallway, while he processes her direct response. All he can manage is a weak squeak, while his soul tries to escape through his ears. Sunwoo leans in close, making sure he knows this invitation is basically a confession. Now the stakes are through the roof. The weekend finally hits, and the city plaza is buzzing as our boy arrives for his big meeting. Jason's right there on his shoulder, though, recapping how he basically fell upward into these plans. He's not letting him forget his luck. The mustached spirit roasts him for blurting out a "yeah" without thinking, calling it a bad habit he's gotta fix. Jin-yong tries to pivot to his new contacts, but it's a weak move. Jason ignores the fashion talk entirely to keep his focus on the real issue. He cuts the small talk and gets serious, He wants to know exactly what kind of relationship he wants to have with Sunwoo. Jason demands he clarify his intentions right now, leaving no room to hide. Our boy's eyes go wide when the spirit bluntly declares that he actually has romantic feelings for her. The miniature mentor points out that she definitely knows what's up after that public invite. For anyone else, that's progress, but for him, rejection is a fate worse than death. Jason suggests he should just dump those feelings now to save himself from another trauma. It's a cold move, sure, but it would stop those recurring nightmares of being shot down. He admits you can't just flip a switch on your heart, but then a memory hits him. It's obvious he's realizing he's actually handled this exact pressure before. He decides his only way to survive is to retreat to a safe space, viewing Sunwoo as just a stone to keep his cool. The advisor watches with interest as this new strategy takes hold. The spirit shifts gears to offer advice for this new path, but warns there's a major catch to treating a crush like a pebble. Naturally, that's exactly when she shows up. She looks stunning and immediately throws him off by complimenting his outfit. He stands there staring like an idiot. So much for that treat her like a rock strategy, it's already falling apart. Jason decides to double down on his wingman duties to help him move past his old baggage. In response, she gives him a smile that could light up the whole block as they get ready to head out. They're right in the heart of the city now, and it's time for him to make your choice. The training wheels are officially off. Good luck, man. But his old trauma is starting to flare up. He's terrified of a final no, because he hasn't exactly figured out how to handle rejection yet. Even with that fear hanging over him, he makes a silent declaration. To him, she's the only one he can actually see clearly through the fog. By the time the weekend rolls around, they've finally made it to a cafe together. She thinks his espresso choice is a sign of maturity, but he immediately drops a truth bomb that kills the mood. He admits he only ordered it because it was the cheapest thing on the menu. Bro keeps a mystery. They've got an hour to kill before the play, and while she's genuinely excited, he's a nervous wreck. He's still sweating over the advice Jason gave him about being honest. He looks at her, and for a split second, she feels completely untouchable. She turns those purple eyes on him, and the air gets thin. Our guy realizes that if he wants a real shot, he has to dismantle his entire psychological fortress. It's a tall order. Can a guy who's been hiding in a shell really break out in a single afternoon? He flashes back to when it was safer to see every girl as a literal block of stone. It's a heavy-duty defense mechanism, and he's honestly not sure he's ready to turn it off. Sunwoo snaps him out of his spiral by asking exactly what's on his mind. He practically jumps out of his skin, blaming that nasty espresso for his 1,000-yard stare. She's not buying the caffeine excuse for a second, and calls him a liar to his face. After all, why would he be thinking about anything else while she's sitting right there? To drive the point home, she drops a number that hits harder than a truck. 2 hours, that's how long she spent on her makeup just to see him. Her effort deserves his full attention, and she makes that crystal clear. She's not asking, she's commanding him to stay present. Focus on me. He feels like a total jerk for letting his baggage cloud a moment this good. Since he's the one who invited her out, she decides to let it slide. He stands up to leave. He tells himself to just enjoy it. They hit the theater, where things get weird. The play is a total train wreck version of Romeo and Juliet. Romeo explains his name is just what his mom called him, which kills the vibe instantly. It gets worse when the lead actor starts roasting the heroine's intelligence as part of the script. It's so bad that Sunwoo falls asleep while he just stares into the void. They ditch the high culture for a claw machine, which is just a different flavor of tragedy. 20,001 later, he still hasn't caught a single plushie. He follows that up by murdering a song at karaoke while she laughs her head off. At least dinner involves her actually taking care of him for a change. They wander the neon streets afterward, chatting about their friend Suk-young. Sunwoo's blushing now, and the night finally feels right. The marathon date finally winds down as they stroll toward her apartment. It's been a total roller coaster of terrible coffee, and even worse luck at the arcade. He plays the gentleman and sees her all the way to her door. She gives him a final wave, telling him to get home safe tonight. But he stands there, radiating enough hesitation to be seen from space. She stops in her tracks, sensing the vibe and asking if he's got something else to say. Our guy finally finds his tongue before it gets too awkward. He stammers out that he had a really good time today. He even manages to ask for a sequel. Now he's just holding his breath, hoping she's actually down to do this again soon. Sunwoo stares him down while waiting for the punchline to this painfully awkward goodbye. All he can offer is a nervous laugh that barely hides the panic. He settles for a basic school farewell. She gives him a playful smack for making her nervous over nothing. She heads home with one last wave. He's left on the sidewalk to process the fact that he actually survived. The high wears off fast. He's drowning in the fear of her eventually rejecting him. Just imagining a bad reaction from her is enough to make his internal alarms go off at max volume. He convinces himself these feelings are just a trap. So naturally, he blames teacher Hangyul for setting this whole thing up in the first place. Memories of his defense from 5 years ago start resurfacing. He'd rather have the safety of a cold, unfeeling world than deal with this. To keep things safe, he resolves to turn his heart into a fortress. He's decided he'll just view her as a literal stone before things get messy. But that plan immediately hits a snag when she calls out from the sidewalk. Instead of letting him leave, she tells him to order something other than an espresso next time. Our guy spins around with a look of pure shock. He finds her standing there, and her presence is way too warm for his stone strategy to work. She suggests a choco latte for their next meeting, telling him it should be like a choco latte. Just like that, his mental wall crumbles like a cheap tent. That's when Jason pops up, mustache practically twitching with judgment. He wants to know if this rock-solid plan is actually going to work. The muscular mentor sits him down to talk some sense into him. He points out that while running away is technically a way to cope, it's not a real solution. After spilling everything about his past, our boy finally asks the big question. He needs to know exactly how he looks to everyone else right now. Jason doesn't sugarcoat it and starts the list of shame. He points out that he even needed a middleman just to ask her out. He's officially cooked, as his buddy lists every single failure, from his distracted staring to her having to cut his food like he's a toddler. The point is clear. Our guy was seconds away from hiding again because of a massive skill issue. Jason just throws his hands up at the situation. He claims he's only stating the objective facts, while roasting his friend into the ground. Jin-yong looks like he wants to expire on the spot. Faced with the truth, he admits, that's seriously loser behavior. That realization finally clicks. Before she can vanish into the night, he reaches out to grab her hands. Sunwoo freezes, face turning a deep shade of red. It's clear she's completely caught off guard by this sudden burst of actual confidence. He promises to pick a much more interesting play for their next date. It's his way of apologizing for the fact that she fell asleep earlier tonight. Seeing him so honest about wanting to meet again catches her by surprise. She just busts out laughing, and just like that, the mood finally lightens up. She admits she'd been waiting for him to finally step up. Honestly, it's about time he found his spine. The laughter doesn't stop, like he just told the best joke of the year. Standing there on the sidewalk, she repeats that she'd been wondering when he'd finally say that. She flashes a peace sign and claims she's only got eyes for one person. Is this actually happening? A brief silence falls over the pavement while they stand together. Their hands finally meet, actual progress. His face turns into a literal tomato the second they touch. He starts stammering apologies like he just committed a crime. Relax, dude. With a smile, she tells him to bring something more fun for their next date. She waves goodbye while heading off into the night. Get home safe. Our guy clutches his chest with pure emotion while watching her go. However, as she puts some distance between them, her expression turns surprisingly heavy. A bandaged hand suggests there's a secret burden hidden under those sleeves. She still turns back with one last bright grin before disappearing. He preps for a brutal morning workout. Since he's got that tiny muscular coach on his shoulder, he gets straight to hammering out pull-ups. Breaking a sweat is usually his go-to for clearing out the mental clutter. He's decided to ditch the fear of rejection, finally resolving to close the distance. Jason's all for it, giving him the official seal of approval for actually making a manly decision. But he immediately starts overthinking how to actually speak to her again. Meanwhile, a girl in a pink hoodie watches him struggle through his training sets from the sidelines. He can't even finish a few reps before his joints start aching. That's when the girl behind him drops a blunt roast out of nowhere. Jin-yong lets out a full-on shout once he sees who's sneaked up on him. "It's me, Suk-young," she says before judging his choice of pajamas. She offers a playful greeting, though he just stares back in a total daze. He's clearly not a morning person. He finally recognizes her as Sunwoo's friend, with a familiar stone-shaped head. She ignores his confusion, though, and orders him to get back on the bar. He reaches up for one more attempt just to satisfy her. Unfortunately, seeing his absolute lack of form makes Suk-young shout in horror. He's struggling for his life. Predictably, he loses his grip and face plants right into the grass. He groans in pain while clutching his head after the fall. She's not sympathetic, though, warning him that he'll wreck his joints with that garbage technique. She tells him to stay put while she heads off to change clothes. He tries to protest, but she's already walking away. Good luck with that. She shoots a look back to make sure he doesn't move an inch. Left alone, he's just sitting there wondering how his morning got this weird. But Jason sees this encounter as a massive opportunity for growth. He starts quoting old strategies about knowing your enemy to win the war, like some tactical genius. With that in mind, they recall everything they learned from a childhood buddy they call Pig. The mission's changed from avoiding her to actually getting close. Our boy decides it's time to use Suk-young as his personal intel agency. It's a massive step up from whatever garbage Pig was providing. Suk-young's already back after a quick wardrobe change. Jin-yong has the absolute nerve to ask if she actually changed her clothes. She immediately calls him out for being blind. She ignores his insults and tells him to shut up and start his pull-ups. Instead of hitting the bar, though, he tries to pivot the conversation back to his real goal. Suk-young doesn't miss a beat. She confirms the friendship, but wants to know why he's bringing her up mid-workout. Our guy is officially busted. He tries to play it cool with some weak excuses. She shuts that down instantly, though. She claims even a random chicken would know he's got a crush on her best friend. He can only watch in horror as a literal chicken nearby starts nodding along. Apparently, even the livestock thinks his feelings are obvious. To save face, he shifts gears to talk about how popular Sunwoo is at school. Suk-young admits that her popularity is part of the problem. But the real issue, the girl is a total mystery. Sunwoo's basically sociability, personified when she's walking through the halls. She's nice to everyone. However, even her closest friend feels a massive wall between them. Suk-young admits she's completely clueless about what's actually going on inside Sunwoo's head. Sure, they joke and chat all day, but Sunwoo never spills a single detail about her life outside of school. She's the undisputed queen of hiding secrets behind a polite smile. It's a final warning for our boy. Chasing a girl like this is basically signing up for a world of pain. Now Jin-yong's left wondering if everyone else sees a red flag he's totally missing. Suk-young, however, has zero sympathy for his existential crisis. She just orders him to get back on the pull-up bar. He lets out a pathetic scream, but one quick kick to the shins makes him give in. She's starting to wonder if he's actually serious about this workout, or just here to whine. He's forced to admit he looks pretty weak compared to her. That is when Suk-young flashes a smug look and starts unzipping her hoodie. Things are about to take a turn. She drops the hoodie to reveal an athletic tank top underneath. Our guy was definitely not ready for the reality that Suk-young is shredded. She stands there looking like a fitness influencer right in the middle of the park. She warns him not to go catching feelings just because she's got gains. Jin-yong is completely short-circuited. He's just standing there, rigid as a statue. All he can do is admit she looks incredibly solid. She's definitely not just some stone-headed girl anymore. Across the way, two other girls sitting on a park bench. They're totally deep in their own world. The park's buzzing with people enjoying the afternoon. It's really the perfect spot for some local gossip to go down. Nearby, a hand white-knuckles a grocery bag. There's a girl in a black cap, trying her absolute best to blend into the shadows. She ducks her head, hoping to stay invisible as a couple of classmates stroll past. They're way too busy arguing about whether the PE teacher is actually handsome to notice her, though. The tea gets even hotter when they start speculating if he's dating teacher Hangul. Realizing these are her own peers makes her face turn bright red under that cap. This is getting awkward fast. Her eyes stay glued to the ground until she's safely away from them. But those intense workout vibes are already calling her back. Suk-young is mid-rant, screaming at her trainee to stop using momentum. She's trying to stay under the radar, but Suk-young's volume makes that impossible, and she nearly jumps out of her skin when a scream echoes through the park. Suk-young isn't just a gym rat anymore. She's a full-blown drill instructor. She bellows for him to pull from his back, while the poor guy struggles to survive the set. Jin-yong begs for a shred of mercy, but she doesn't have any in stock today. He's a total wet noodle on that bar, shaking with every single rep. Sunwoo gets a front row seat to the comedy show and can't help but crack a smile. Finally losing her patience with the slow progress, Suk-young kicks him right in the butt. She orders him to move before his form hurts her soul. To prove a point, she decides to show him how proper back engagement actually looks. Her hands grip the bar like she's about to tear it right off the frame. She flies up the bar like gravity is just a suggestion. While hanging there, she mocks Jin-yong for failing at such a basic movement. It's a rough look for him. The roast session is cut short, however, when a familiar face enters the chat. Sunwoo finally strolls up, clearly impressed by the flex she just witnessed. The second she recognizes Sunwoo, Suk-young turns into a happy puppy. She's thrilled to see her best friend, even if she always seems to appear out of thin air. Suk-young immediately starts explaining that she was just trying to fix Jin-yong's tragic form. Behind them sits a random chicken, just chilling on the red walkway. Nobody knows why it's there, but it's low-key adorable. Sunwoo spots our boy hovering awkwardly and gives him a friendly greeting. He manages a shy wave back, doing his absolute best not to short-circuit on the spot. She wants to join the fun, but can barely hang on to the bar for more than a second. When Jin-yong brings up her anemia, she immediately gets defensive about him teasing her. Way to go, Romeo. Since she's struggling, the girls decide to turn her training into a group project. They're going to boost her up, while our guy is demoted to being the official rep counter. Suk-young provides the support as Sunwoo grips the bar and prepares to pull. Even with the assist, the poor girl admits this is way harder than it looks. Something suddenly clicks in her head. Meanwhile, Jin-yong watches the whole thing with the focus of a man staring at a solar eclipse. He's totally locked in, not moving a single muscle. Suk-young starts to blush as she feels the heavy weight of that unblinking gaze. Suk-young keeps pushing her, yelling for her friend to fight through the struggle. The girl strains with everything she's got, her face a mask of pure exhaustion. She's reaching her physical limit, completely flushed from the effort. But while she's fighting for her life, Jin-yong is back to being distracted by the poultry. Seriously, where did that chicken even come from? The tension finally snaps when her grip gives out. She loses her balance and falls backward in a total panic. They go down together, hitting the pavement in a loud, tangled heap. Our guy stands there with a blank expression, totally confused by the sudden crash. He stands over them and asks why they're acting so weird all of a sudden. He actually doubles down on the anemia comment, which is a bold choice right now. Sunwoo is too busy apologizing for the accident to even hear him. Suk-young just lies there in a daze, processing the fact that both of them were clearly spacing out. Suk-young's officially reached her boiling point. She hauls Sunwoo up by the collar and threatens to end them both for being so incredibly incompetent. A massive apology echoes across the neighborhood as the sun starts to dip. The day's chaos finally winds down, and they're left in the quiet evening light. Trudging home later, they're both feeling the weight of the day. Sunwoo still manages to joke that the instructor didn't even do anything to get this tired. She suggests making these training sessions a regular thing, which is bad news for Jin-yong's original plan. He realizes his strategy to learn more about her was a total bust today. That's when Jason pops up with a supportive thumbs up. He tells him to take it slow, because having some fun is still a win. Eventually, they hit the point where they have to take different paths home. Sunwoo waves goodbye, but she hesitates for a second like something's still lingering. He stops to see if she's got something on her mind. She looks a bit shy about it, but she insists it isn't anything serious. Back at it, he keeps grinding out pull-ups while Suk-young watches him with a weirdly unreadable look. Out of nowhere, she asks if he likes people who are good at sports. The question completely fries his brain. He fumbles for a response and eventually mutters that being healthy is nice, immediately wondering why she's even asking. She just stares at him for a second after that absolute dud of a response. She flashes a bright smile, looking like his oblivious nature is exactly what she expected. She gives a final wave and heads off, leaving our guy looking like a confused puppy. A literal cloud of smoke appears as he tries to process what just happened. Jason rubs his face in pure frustration at his partner's lack of romantic awareness. The mustache man admits he's no expert, but even he knows a disaster when he sees one. Jin-yong's genuinely shocked when his internal companion tells him his answer was a total dud. Jason just starts walking away across the street, telling him to use the trip home to reflect on his absolute failure. The two of them keep bickering while the sunset paints the sky over the city. Meanwhile, Suk-young's flinching in terror because that persistent chicken from earlier is legit following her home. Elsewhere, Suk-young goes completely still. She's not being stalked by a spirit, though. She explains to her friends that the music was just so good it gave her physical chills. Naturally, the hallway's now full of students gossiping about the mystery piano player. While a few of them act skeptical, our boy's more focused on the fact that Jason is visibly trembling. He's basically huddling into a ball, admitting he's useless once ghost stories start flying. Everyone's wondering who the secret talent is, until the kid they call Pig joins the conversation. He leans in and asks Suk-young if she's heard about the legendary ghost of the music room. Pig starts spinning a dark tale about a spirit that's haunted these halls for years. He claims it's a girl who used to stay late every night just to play alone in the dark upstairs. The story takes a grim turn when he says she died right there at the piano. But it's hard to stay scared when you find out she choked on a piece of candy talk about an embarrassing way to go. Legend says the melody still echoes through the school when no one's around. Pig's dead serious, insisting Suk-young was listening to a performance from beyond the grave. The group just stares back in silence, caught between being creeped out and disappointed by the story. Jin-yong, for one, thinks the candy-choking plot point is way too sloppy to be believable. He scans his classmates' faces to see who's actually buying this nonsense. That's when he spots Sunwoo vibrating in place, realizing she's way more timid than she looks. Jin-yong finds her desperate struggle to stay calm surprisingly cute. But their moment is cut short. A teacher calls for them to report for duty. The teacher claims they have perfect timing and drags them toward the faculty office. They head off, leaving the others behind. Once they're gone, Suk-young asks Pig if that rumor was actually legit. He just flashes a villainous grin and admits he made the whole thing up on the fly. He walks away cackling, clearly satisfied with himself for terrifying poor Sunwoo. Suk-young is just left standing there, completely disgusted by the guy's petty behavior. She mutters an insult at the back of his head as he disappears. What a total clown move. Eventually, night falls over the high-rises and the city goes quiet. The long school day is finally over. The pair finally head through the empty halls after finishing their late-night grading. It was exhausting work, and they can't help but pity Hanyul's brutal schedule. But Jin-yong notices his companion is still vibrating with nerves. He checks in on her, but the question makes her nearly jump out of her skin. She lets out a forced laugh, trying way too hard to act like everything's fine. He asks if she's still hung up on that ghost story, which earns him a very loud denial. Shoving him aside, she insists that ghosts aren't even real. She's drenched in a cold sweat, yet she's still acting tough and claiming she's not scared. Talk about some high-level, main character energy. The hallway goes silent until mysterious musical notes drift through the shadows. They both freeze. A piano melody echoes through the empty school. Jin-yong realizes it's coming from the music room and wonders who's playing this late. Meanwhile, Sunwoo looks terrified, convinced a real ghost is putting on a show. Jin-yong tries to stay rational, suggesting it's just some overachiever practicing late. But his logic fails when they see a dark silhouette standing at the end of the dim corridor. A humanoid figure with glowing white eyes stares back. He's still hoping it's just a classmate, but his friend's already starting to lose her mind with fear. Sunwoo's brain is totally short-circuiting. The shadow begins walking toward them, and the tension in the hall hits a breaking point. She lets out a terrified scream and bolts for the stairs. She's convinced the candy ghost is finally coming for them. Jin-yong shouts for her to wait and tries to keep up with her frantic flight. The figure remains in the hallway, watching the two students scramble away in a total panic. The ghost is actually just teacher Hangul. She's genuinely confused by their reaction. She looks at her reflection in the dark glass, wondering if she really looks that scary. The teacher's a bit sulky now, after being mistaken for a restless spirit by her own students. The chase leads back to the Sunshine Land apartments under the low-hanging moon. Jin-yong runs through the entrance, desperate to find where his companion disappeared to. He finally spots her after her frantic escape. He rushes over the second. He sees her lying face down on the ground in the middle of the path. She's groaning about the stairs, while he asks if her anemia made her lose her balance. She can't stop thinking about that figure, even though he's sure it was just a person. The pair agrees that Pig's the one to blame for scaring them with those fake legends. But the mood shifts again, as that same piano melody begins to echo through the night. He wonders who's playing this late. He looks at her trembling form, and realizes he needs to find a way to calm her down fast. Jason pops up in his best cape and mustache combo, insisting this is the perfect moment to make a move. Clearly, his mental wingman is down bad for a romance subplot. He breaks down the suspension bridge effect, explaining how fear is basically a shortcut to her heart. Since they're alone and she's vulnerable, the mustachioed voice in his head tells him to capitalize now. Just then, a hand creeps out from the shadows directly behind him. Jin-yong flinches as it touches him, his heart nearly jumping out of his chest. But it's just Sunwoo leaning in close to admit she's way too scared to be alone. Desperate for safety, she reaches out and anchors herself to his arm. He starts turning bright red as the gears in his head finally click. This is it. They're perfectly positioned for that suspension bridge effect to kick in. Honestly, he's just shocked he actually remembered a psych lecture for once. It's a classic move where danger tricks the brain into feeling affection for whoever's standing next to you during the chaos. There's just one tiny flaw in the plan. The creepy piano music is suddenly sounding way too upbeat. It works, though. Her expression finally softens as she lets out a nervous little laugh. He admits the phantom pianist actually has some serious skills, but then she shows off a bit of hidden depth, identifying the waltz rhythm like a total pro. Turns out she took ballroom classes as a kid, though she spent most of the time arguing with Jumin. She even remembers throwing a total fit in kindergarten, because she hated having him as a partner. Jin-yong listens as she explains how anemia forced her to swap dancing shoes for art supplies. Apparently, Jumin was some kind of legendary dancing prodigy back then, which is a total nightmare to imagine. It's hard to picture a guy with that massive build actually being graceful on his feet. Still, the whole idea of ballroom dancing sounds like a fun mystery, since he's never tried it himself. He watches her hum along to the melody as she gets lost in the memory. She decides they shouldn't let this free concert go to waste, which can only mean one thing. Our boy freezes when she suddenly demands his hand. Before he can process it, she's pulling him into a spontaneous lesson. He tentatively reaches out, while the moon hangs over the school roof. Their fingers finally meet, and he secures a gentle grip. Jin-yong tries his best to follow her lead, but his coordination is officially in the gutter. He puts his full weight into a massive stomp that deletes her poor toes. He's a total fountain of apologies, while she winces in pure agony. Naturally, he blames the failure on his legs, still being shaky from that low kick Suk-young gave him earlier. He somehow convinces her to try one more time, despite the assault on her feet. This time, she tries to spin him like a top to get the rhythm down. Jin-yong catches an edge on the pavement, and his balance just evaporates. He ends up eating the pavement right in front of her. She starts roasting him immediately, laughing at how hopeless he is at this. But then she settles into a warm smile that makes the fall feel worth it. Looking up, he asks if she's really willing to risk her feet again. She gives him a stern warning. Step on her twice and she's breaking his leg. Jin-yong stays low and asks her to actually teach him, since he's clearly a disaster. He extends his hand with a formal request to be in her care for the night. The suave move actually works, catching her completely off guard. She whispers in surprise as her face turns a bright, flustered shade of pink. He drops to one knee to seal the partnership. "I'll be in your care too," he says, fully committing to the bit. Jin-yong looks up to find her smiling down at him. She accepts the deal, though she mentions that the ghost of the music room is a surprisingly skilled pianist. Jason explains the legend of the music room. Nobody knows who's actually been playing that piano late at night. To most kids, the melody is just fuel for a cheap creepypasta. But for these two, it sounds like a private gift for their dance. They move perfectly to the rhythm, while the school lights glow behind them. Just get married already. The rooftop dance finally winds down. Peace at last. He walks her home afterward and starts digging for more details about her life. He even asks if she's still keeping up with her art. The guy makes a weirdly specific request for a drawing of a buff guy with a beard. She's clearly confused, but she promises to give it a shot. It hits him that he didn't know anything about her until tonight. Watching her walk, he wonders if he should find a real goal of his own. Sunwoo claims she needs a bathroom break and heads back toward the building. He calls out to ask if she'll be okay on her own. Watching her go, a bad feeling starts to settle in. Something is clearly wrong. She was literally trembling in fear 5 minutes ago, so her sudden courage doesn't add up. He clearly recalls her looking like she was 2 seconds away from passing out in that hallway. Her sudden confidence is just plain weird. But now, she's just strolling into the dark without flinching. The math isn't mathing. He wonders if she grew a backbone in record time. Or maybe she's just a great actress. Jason sits there with his hands clasped like a detective. He's officially calling foul. When our guy asks what's so suspicious, Jason starts theorycrafting about the bridge effect. He's convinced their own plan was working against them from the start. Meanwhile, Sunwoo is back in the bathroom fixing her lipstick, as if she didn't just trick him. Naturally, someone brings up the ghost again. She laughs off the idea of actual ghosts while checking her reflection. "Park Jin-yong, you clumsy oaf," she mutters, still annoyed about her sore toes. Over at the music room, the truth finally starts to leak out. No ghosts here. A hand slides the door open to check on the late-night practice. Teacher Hangyul steps in and tells the girl it's time to pack it up. The mystery pianist is revealed to be Yojin. His teacher is the one breaking up the session. She looks crushed that her session is getting cut short. "Can I play just one more piece?" she mumbles, pleading for more time. Back with Sunwoo, she's actually pondering a weird request from Jin-yong, who really asked for a drawing of a buff guy with a mustache. She holds her pen, wondering why he wants a muscular macho guy with a mustache so badly. If an artist offered you a free sketch, what's the weirdest thing you would ask for? It's a weirdly specific vibe to ask for. And she quickly realizes that macho guy is way too vague for a serious sketch. She stands up to track him down and get some actual details. But just as she makes a move for the door, a classmate shouts her name to pull her back. Before she can even make it out of the room, 2 girls corner her. It's a shame Jin-yong isn't around to see his target getting swamped by fans like this. Ever the social butterfly, Sunwoo greets Yuan and Subin with her usual high energy. Instead of just saying hi, though, they shove a phone in her face while practically vibrating with excitement. It turns out she accidentally made a cameo in Yuan's school vlog. The video is crushing it with over 1 million views, which means she's officially a viral star. The internet is obsessed, and everyone's dying to know who the pretty girl in the background is. Sunwoo just laughs off the compliments. Must be nice to be that naturally gifted. Yuan is already plotting her path to becoming a pro-influencer and wants more of that magic. She's demanding a full collab, so our boys' competition just got way stiffer. She just shrugs and goes along with the plan. Why not, right? They walk through the city as another day of school drama finally winds down. The sun dips low over the village as everyone heads home to their apartments. Jason's got that look in his eyes. It's mission time. The objective is simple. Ask Sunwoo to hit the school store with them. Jin-yong thinks that's way too obvious, but Jason isn't hearing any excuses today. He insists this is just character building, social practice. Jin-yong tries to summon some courage, but it's just not working. He slides the door open like he's entering a dragon's den. He's already low-key terrified, and it only gets worse when someone else beats him to the punch with a loud greeting. The vlog crew is in full swing, filming right in the middle of the room. The other girls pose for the camera with stone faces that are clearly working overtime. Seeing how busy she is, he bails instantly. Our guy decides later is a much better time. Classic move. Sunwoo stops mid-sentence, sensing a disturbance. While a student walks through the hall in silence, she stands before the bulletin board, lost in her own thoughts. The mission to the school store is dead. That social gap is just too wide for him to bridge today. He heads outside to catch some air. He vents to his imaginary buff buddy as they walk. Deep down, he's just impressed by her social skills and all those close friends. A voice calls his name, making him nearly jump out of his skin. It's Sunwoo. She caught him talking to thin air again. Awkward. He flips out and denies the solo convo, asking, "What are you talking about? Talking to myself? I wasn't doing that." She just laughs and pokes at him like he's some kind of specimen, claiming she sees him do it all the time. "Don't tell me you've made up an imaginary friend and talked to it." He tries to pivot back to normal student life by asking if she wants him to walk with her. But just as she agrees, another voice cuts through the air. Right on cue, 2 other girls show up to crash the moment. Sunwoo greets Yuan and Subin with a smile, though it looks a bit more practiced than genuine. The whole vibe shifts the second Yuan spots him standing there. She completely drops whatever she was saying about her vlog and just stares, making it clear he wasn't part of the plan. Subin starts whispering to her friend about reading the room and taking the hint. They decide to bail, promising to film with her tomorrow instead. She just waves them off with a pleasant look, but these two are definitely a lot to handle. Jin-yong's face goes totally blank. He hears them say Sunwoo is nice, so she'll do this much for us. It is cold-blooded. He watches them disappear into the distance and realizes he knows nothing about her social life. It makes him wonder if they're actually friends, or if she's just the class's designated pushover. Suk-young's warning about her being a bit too friendly suddenly rings in his head. He turns back to her, and his blood runs cold. A heavy silence settles over the sidewalk. He can't even find his voice. "What?" is the only thing he manages to choke out. He starts sweating under the pressure. Her expression is way too dark for a casual chat. She finally lets out a deep breath and forces a laugh, but it sounds completely hollow. He stands there totally lost while she starts posing and mocking herself. "Wow, Tilda, I must be such an idiot, Jin-yong." She holds up her card, acting like she completely forgot it was already recharged. It's a weak excuse, but it's enough for her to announce she has to be somewhere else before ditching him entirely. Jin-yong stands there watching her walk away. That look she gave him isn't something he can just brush off. It's going to haunt him because something is clearly broken. One word keeps looping through his mind: off. He's so rattled that he ends up on a park bench with Jason, unable to shake the feeling that he's walking into a disaster. He's gripping his backpack strap until his knuckles turn white, wondering if this is exactly what Juman warned him about. Even Jason has dropped the comedy for once, noting how she ran off and how agitated she looked, which pretty much confirms the bad vibe. The man with the mustache asks what his move is, so he takes a long look at the fading sunset. He's standing there in the twilight, weighing whether he should actually interfere or just stay out of it. He decides to go for it, thinking this might be his best shot at getting closer to Sunwoo. With that, he's officially in, and Jason's already prepping the first steps of their investigation. Things are heating up now that they're investigating the school's most popular girl. Jason's acting like a real-life quest giver, tossing out missions while they're still in the park. Jin-yong remembers the first goal: find the person closest to her and start digging for real dirt. He isn't waiting until morning to make his move, either. Suk-young strolls down the path in a bright orange jacket, looking predictably annoyed that she's being summoned so late. She demands to know why he called her out for a secret meeting in the middle of the night. She lets out a teasing laugh as she closes the distance. She warns him not to accidentally fall for her while they're plotting. The air in the park is thick with tension as they get ready to dive into the mystery. Meanwhile, Jason's literally playing detective in a deerstalker hat while leaning against empty space. He totally agrees with the choice to skip over Pig, since that childhood friend is nothing but a massive headache. Getting relationship advice from a guy in a tank top. Yeah, now I've seen everything. Back at the park, he breaks down everything that went sideways during that sunset walk. He explains that Sunwoo's expression was totally wrong during the vlog incident, but Suk-young isn't fully sold. She's listening, but she's gonna need more than just a vibe to go on. Jin-yong's still stuck on that look Sunwoo gave him, replaying her devastated expression in his head. He's convinced a simple video wouldn't crush her like that, so he asks Suk-young if she's ever seen her best friend act that way before. Suk-young goes quiet, tapping her chin as she starts digging through her memories. Her eyes widen as a specific moment from years ago clicks into place. It looks like the history she's been hiding is finally coming out. She isn't giving the tea away for free, though. She makes him promise to stop doing those weird pull-ups in exchange for the story. He's desperate. Jin-yong's willing to agree to anything. The memory takes them back to a loud, crowded classroom. Everyone's huddled around a birthday cake for a girl named Min-young. Someone shouts for Sunwoo to come over and join the party. The whole class is all smiles, practically begging Sunwoo to grab a slice. Suk-young leans in and asks her friend if she actually remembered the date. Judging by her face, she's totally caught off guard. Sunwoo looks like she's trying to swallow a rock, while everyone watches and waits. The birthday girl is beaming, just hoping for her popular friend to say something sweet. Talk about high pressure. She pivots instantly with a practiced laugh and a few claps. She apologizes for the slip-up and promises to buy a huge meal later to make up for it. She's a pro at this, but the cracks are starting to show. Our girl drags Suk-young toward the bathroom just to escape that awkward energy. Suk-young can hardly believe it. Sunwoo is usually on top of everything, so forgetting a close friend's birthday is a massive red flag. The second they leave, the class snakes start their highlight reel of gossip. They whisper about how much Min-young looked after her, only to get snubbed like this. One girl even points out how Sunwoo always keeps a wall between herself and everyone else. Suk-young overhears every word, and her expression turns straight up villainous. She's ready to wreck them. Protecting your crew is a full-time job. She wonders if Sunwoo actually heard the nasty things they were saying. Concerned, she follows her into the dark hallway to check on her. Sunwoo's just standing there with an expression Suk-young's never seen before. It isn't anger or even sadness. It's the look of someone who's already given up on trying to fit in. Back in the present, Suk-young finishes the story, and Jin-yong's left visibly shaken. He tries to argue that anyone would be crushed by those insults, but she shuts that down immediately. To her, the look on Sunwoo's face wasn't just pain. It was something much deeper and more permanent. Jin-yong stares at the ground as the weight of it all sinks in. Suk-young watches him process the heavy news in the quiet garden. She's got a question of her own now, and it's definitely one our guy isn't going to enjoy answering. Suk-young snaps him out of his daze to ask what he makes of the whole situation. He's still playing catch-up, so she has to clarify she's talking about Sunwoo's favorite neighbor reputation. She admits she doesn't have the whole picture yet, but her gut's telling her something dark is bubbling under the surface. In her eyes, being this popular isn't a gift, it's a curse. He just stares blankly because that's way too philosophical for a late-night park chat. Suk-young doesn't stick around for him to find a brain cell, though, since she's got a shift to start. She tosses one last warning over her shoulder about how brutal this mission's going to be. Getting close to the school's biggest mystery girl is going to be nothing but a world of pain for him. Suk-young wanders off laughing, leaving Jin-yong to debate the actual merits of social skills. He can't wrap his head around it. The night stays quiet while he chews on the mystery of Sunwoo's true self. He tries to connect the dots between that old story and the bizarre look she had on her face yesterday. Standing there with his hand on his chin, he finally just admits it. He's completely lost. Jason's back in full detective gear, pipe and all, to basically call him a moron. He asks if there's even a single functional plan in that head of his that actually sparks some inspiration, so Jin-yong decides to kick into overthinking mode. His brilliant plan is to just keep thinking about it until an answer magically appears. Logic, he's never heard of it. Twilight fades as they realize that building a real bridge to someone is grueling work. Before he knows it, the sun's coming up on a fresh day at school. Yuan's practically vibrating as she shoves her phone into Sunwoo's face. Apparently the vlog hit 50,000 views in a single day. She starts gushing about how her friend's face is basically a money printer for the channel. Our girl tries to play it humble, though, insisting it's actually all about the editing talent. Yuan isn't letting her off the hook and declares she's a permanent fixture now. But looking at her face, it's pretty clear she never signed up for a long-term contract. She tries to back out, explaining she's just not comfortable with her face being plastered everywhere. Yuan isn't even listening, since she's too busy seeing their success evaporate without her star. She brings up Sunwoo's massive Instagram following as proof she's already a public figure anyway. A classmate actually tries to tell her to back off, but Yuan is in full manager mode. She leans into a classic guilt trip, claiming she'll be personally crushed if her partner bails. Real subtle. Yuan just keeps pushing, insisting the comment section is begging for more. That's when our girl stops smiling and repeats herself with a tone that could cut glass. It's enough to make them freeze. The hallway goes dead quiet while the tension skyrockets. Her gaze is ice cold. She lets out a heavy breath and finally makes a weak excuse about her face being too puffy to film. She just walks away, leaving the whole social vibe in absolute tatters. The two girls just stand there paralyzed with their jaws on the floor. They're stunned she got so serious. Looking for backup, Yuan asks Subin if she really crossed a line. It's the classic defense of someone who just got caught being annoying. Subin plays along, suggesting she's just being dramatic about a perfectly good opportunity. Meanwhile, our girl is already long gone, and the gossip train is leaving the station. With Sunwoo finally out of earshot, Yuan and Subin waste no time sharpening their knives, whispering about how she's actually a total freak. It's the ultimate display of fake friend behavior. They've decided the whole vibe is ruined just because she had the nerve to set boundaries, which apparently makes her the villain now. Yuan starts complaining about how awkward things got, conveniently forgetting she's the one who wouldn't stop pestering her. These two just stand there trashing her for being weird, while our girl is probably off somewhere, just trying to exist in peace. Even as she fumes behind a wall, Yuan's always on the hunt for drama and quickly spots someone lurking nearby. There's definitely an eavesdropper in the mix, and the look on her face says she's just found a fresh target. The lurker turns out to be Jin-yong, who gets caught red-handed while he was busy daydreaming about his school mystery girl. He flinches hard the second he hears Sunwoo's name out loud, reacting like a total amateur. Caught in 4K, buddy. He tries to play it cool and act curious, but let's be real, the guy has zero poker face. Yuan doesn't buy it for a second and shuts him down instantly, snapping that their business is none of his. The hallway goes dead quiet for a second, until Yuan's face twists into that terrifying smile that always means trouble. She's got a new theory brewing, and by the look in her eyes, it's about to get messy. She drops a massive bomb right then and there, asking if he and Sunwoo are actually dating. He panics, but she just coolly warns him that he might want to be careful about who he associates with. Seriously, the audacity of this girl. Yuan leans in close to explain that there are all these rumors about her being totally unhinged. Jin-yong stands there taking the hit, trying to process why she's being so incredibly hostile. Subin's right there nodding along like a trained parrot, while Yuan plays the role of the concerned citizen. She claims she's only worried he's being led on, which is obviously a lie. She doubles down on the fake concern, saying there's no harm in being careful around people like that. She has the nerve to flip the script, claiming they still think Sunwoo is a nice girl at heart. Two-faced much, our guy is left with his head spinning, wondering why everyone thinks the mystery girl is a master manipulator. He stares at those literal stone faces, feeling like he's trying to talk to actual statues. It's enough to make him wonder if these two have officially lost their minds. Even as the title card hits, the drama's already boiling over. Jin-yong can't shake the feeling that it's all just noise, but he's still chewing on that rumor, wondering if Sunwoo's sweet act really is just a facade. Their blank expressions have him convinced they're just malfunctioning. Does either one of them have an original thought in their heads? Pure NPC energy. Yuan tries to keep the gossip train chugging along, but he's finally reached his limit with the nonsense. He cuts her off mid-sentence to ask who she thinks she is spreading this garbage. The girls go dead still. He doesn't let up, though, asking if they're even actually close with Sunwoo. He tells them straight up that he doesn't get their vibe at all. Is this supposed to be friendly advice, or are they just being messy? They just stand there frozen while he calls them out on their weird behavior. Ultimate clown behavior. Yuan realizes she messed with the wrong guy and tries to laugh it off with a fake smile. She grabs Subin for a quick exit, claiming she didn't really mean anything by it. Run along now. Jin-yong is left watching them retreat, while he tries to get his own racing thoughts under control. Jason's just sitting back with his arms crossed, reading the room and sensing the poison those two are spewing. He looks at Jin-yong and warns him that this kind of drama is a one-way ticket to a massive headache. Yuan tries to make a break for it, but he snaps his hand onto her wrist and stops her mid-step. He keeps his grip tight. Where does she think she's going with that attitude? She looks like she's seen a ghost once he asks why she stopped her trash talk session so fast. Jin-yong's done playing nice. Does she really think she's special enough to drive a wedge between him and Sunwoo? He shuts the rumors down for good, declaring he'll decide for himself what kind of person Sunwoo is. Standing his ground in the hallway, he leaves Yuan realizing she pushed the quiet guy way too far. The silence in the hallway is so thick you could cut it with a knife, while the three of them just stand there. Finally, he lets go of her arm and tells them to forget the whole thing. He's already exhausted. He's officially over their petty games. He makes his exit, leaving them to stew. Yuan heads for the stairs, while Jin-yong watches from the landing above. The two girls look like they just survived a boss fight, completely rattled. Subin tries to play the voice of reason and suggests they stop, but Yuan gets that crazy look in her eye again. She ignores the warning and blurts out her new conclusion that the two of them are definitely dating. Subin's confused by the logic, but Yuan insists they're too suspicious for friends. She starts cackling to herself, convinced she just stumbled onto the hottest gossip of the year. She turns back to her sidekick, ignoring the flow of students around them. She grins like a villain, wondering how much chaos she can cause if she spreads this rumor. She even acts like she's doing them a favor, claiming they should help the couple come out into the open. Instant karma arrives. Yuan gets punted back and slams into the floor before she can finish her sentence. Subin screams in terror, while Yuan just sits there waiting for her brain to reboot. The student everyone calls Pig just stares at the carnage with zero emotion. This is Jumin, whose glowing white glasses make him look like a total wall of a human being. He looks down at her with pure NPC energy, wondering why she didn't just move. The hallway is a danger zone when a starving man is heading for the cafeteria. Since it's pork cutlet day, he decides to be generous and let it go. A random shout for Yuan rings out through the empty school as the day finally winds down. The sky turns a deep purple over the neighborhood, but the peace won't last once Jin-yong realizes he's stuck without an umbrella. The sky finally breaks, dumping heavy rain against the school's brick walls. Now our guy is stranded on the porch, cursing himself for not checking the forecast. Jin-yong tries complaining to his tiny mustache companion, but the only advice he gets is to man up and sprint for it. Even as he stares into the gray wash of the storm, he can't shake the feeling that something about Sunwoo's reaction was totally off. He keeps replaying that agitated look she gave him when the curse came up. The unease Jumin mentioned is starting to settle in, making the rainy evening feel a lot heavier. Maybe she was just annoyed at being cornered by a group of strangers, but he's got a feeling the real truth is still buried. Jason wonders if she's lashing out because of some deep-seated trauma. The little guy turns it back on him, asking if he's got his own hidden scars that nobody else understands. He gestures upward, suggesting it's time to stop digging into her business for now. Jin-yong actually agrees with his tiny life coach. They've definitely hit a dead end today. It's better to wait until they're actually friends before he starts prying into her past. Besides, his chances of getting home dry are basically zero at this point. Right on cue, Sunwoo emerges from the shadows with a sturdy red umbrella. She gives him a sharp side-eye, clearly weighing her options while he stands there like a drowned rat. She's decided to judge his character for herself, instead of buying into the school rumors. The girl steps into the downpour, gripping her umbrella like she's ready for a fight. She scans the path ahead while navigating the storm. She stops dead when she spots him. While other students huddle together under shared umbrellas, Sunwoo stays on the sidelines. She keeps a cold, intentional distance from the social circles that usually surround her. Back in the cafeteria, she sits alone and replays every awkward interaction from the day. She shakes off those awkward vibes and finally calls out his name through the heavy downpour. Jin-yong freezes in his tracks the second he hears her voice. He's looking like a total drowned rat, so she decides to take pity on him. She flashes a killer smile and asks if he wants to walk home together. To him, the timing is perfect. He doesn't miss a beat, asking if she'd mind sharing that umbrella until they hit the bus stop. But she recoils like he just asked for a spare kidney instead of a little shelter. They just stand there in the courtyard, frozen, while she stares at him in a heavy, total silence. She studies him with a look so blank it makes the air feel thick. Jin-yong actually starts sweating, wondering why she's drilling a hole through his soul with that unblinking gaze. He finally asks if there's something on his face just to stop the social bleeding. That's when she looks down, mumbling something that the rain almost swallows whole. She fumbles for the right words for a second, then locks eyes to drop a total bombshell. Jin-yong looks like his brain just hit a blue screen of death. He's stuck in pure shock while she stands there, umbrella in hand. Having delivered the compliment, she immediately starts making her exit into the storm. He shouts after her, completely lost as to why she's leaving him to drown right after calling him a 10 out of 10. She doesn't look back once, disappearing down the street in silence. He stands there getting soaked as the dream of sharing an umbrella dies a painful death. Left alone, he's just wondering how he got rejected by a girl who literally just called him hot. By the time the storm finally clears over the apartments a few days later, Sunwoo's back to her usual friendly self. She's waving at everyone in the halls again, but those toxic vlog girls are suddenly nowhere to be seen. Jin-yong watches the social drama unfold as she tries her best to play nice. It's a losing battle, though, because the second her back is turned, the other girls start whispering venom to ensure she stays totally isolated. He can sense something is seriously off with her mood today. Since he can't let it go, he decides the only way to crack the code is to get closer and study her trauma for himself. Jason's not about that slow-burn life, though, and orders him to complete a mission immediately. The objective is simple: get her to the school store. He jumps into the deep end, shouting her name across the hall to catch her attention. To break the ice, he hits her with a classic question: is she hungry? He barely gets the invitation out before she confirms she's starving. But instead of going with him, she just marches off alone to hunt down some fried croaker on her own. Suk-young is right there to witness the most embarrassing fumble of the day. She can't help but joke that a piece of fried fish just outplayed him for a date. He's in full cope mode, trying to convince himself she just really loves seafood. Jason isn't buying the excuse, though, and declares the interaction a perfect rejection. The mustached life coach points out that her behavior is getting weirder by the hour. She called him hot in the pouring rain, yet treats him like a total ghost the next morning. Meanwhile, another girl is blushing harder than a fire truck while she watches him from afar. Back at school, Suk-young is still mocking him for having zero social skills. She calls him a stone-brained idiot for even thinking he had a shot with the school idol. There's a new player, Choi Yojin, who's currently sitting at her piano in a complete daze. She whispers that he's the only one she can see right now. Later on, Jin-yong hits the local convenience store for a quick snack before heading home. But the shelves are mostly empty, leaving him with almost zero options for a decent meal. He reluctantly settles on a Hellfire tonkatsu, which is a painfully spicy snack. He hates spicy food, but his stomach is making all the decisions at this point. As he leaves, he notices Sunwoo is still keeping her distance in the background. She waves back, but there's a strange distance between them that definitely wasn't there before. Our boy stares at his spicy snack and prays his imagination is just playing tricks on him. Rejection is his biggest fear. That's when a soft voice nearly makes him jump out of his skin. Yojin is staring at his Hellfire tonkatsu like it's a religious artifact. She whispers that it's her favorite snack in the whole world. He looks back and sees a total stranger commenting on his grocery list with a weird smile. Since he's a total textbook MC, he writes her off as just another stone head and tries to ignore her. Jason jokes that he might need a hearing aid just to understand her quiet mumbling. Our guy decides that if she actually wants something, she'll have to approach him herself. He leaves her in the aisle. Yojin doesn't seem offended, though, as she's actually obsessed with the intense look in his eyes. She's officially down bad. Back at school, Jin-yong can't escape the feeling that someone is lurking nearby. Yojin is leaning around corners and playing detective to follow his every move. He stops dead. He can feel a pair of eyes burning a hole in his back from the shadows. A buddy asks to play soccer, but he's way too distracted to think about sports. He spots the pink-haired stalker and wonders why she's following him across the school. Instead of dwelling on it, he decides to touch grass and hit the field with his friends. Soccer sounds good, he says, trying to scrub that convenience store encounter from his memory. He runs his drills while she watches from the stairs like a permanent piece of the school architecture. She's really committed to the stakeout. He keeps playing while background characters flirt on a bench nearby, but he can see her hiding behind a pillar. It's like a budget stealth game, and she's honestly terrible at it. Later, a teacher hands him a stack of papers and tells him, "You're strong, Park Jin-yong." It's the curse of being the school's designated heavy lifter. The stalking is finally starting to wear on his nerves. He tries to handle his chores, while a random student begs to go poop in the background. It's official, he's definitely being followed. He finally snaps and sprints straight toward her hiding spot in the hallway. She just freezes. He nabs her collar before she can pull another disappearing act. "What are you doing? Why do you keep following me? Are you a stalker?" he asks. He's officially had enough. He keeps a firm grip on her uniform near the staircase, so she can't run. He isn't letting her wiggle out of this. She starts stammering and calls him Opa, which is when he realizes she's just a first-year student. She's a junior with a major boundary problem. She looks ready to faint under his intense glare. She finally squeaks out her name as Choi Yojin, while he stares her down with pure annoyance. Talk about a personality mismatch. He waits for her to get to the point, but instead she brings up their meeting at the store. She's been replaying that interaction in her head all day long. That's when she drops a total bombshell. "You looked at me like I was a bug, didn't you? Talk about a curveball." That weird phrasing completely blindsides him. He stammers out, "No, not a bug exactly," because his brain's officially short-circuiting. She admits she's been stalking him just to confirm her theory about how he sees people. He scratches his head in pure exhaustion. This girl's a full-time menace. Our boy asks what this has to do with a favor she's obsessed with. She invites him to the music room after school to hear her original song. Something's fishy. She lands the final blow by asking him to look at her like a bug while she performs. Choi Yojin's a massive masochist. He stares in stunned silence while she blushes harder than a beet. "I actually like it," she admits, looking completely down bad for a little verbal abuse. Jason's got zero chill and calls her a crazy person right to her face. Jin-yong has to tell him to pipe down before things get even more awkward. Meanwhile, we get a fever dream of Jason in a bright yellow tuxedo belting out a love song. His performance is majestic. Back on the staircase, our boy's still trying to process the bug gaze request. He's double-checking his ears to make sure he didn't hallucinate that whole thing. He points a finger at her and doesn't hold back his judgment. "You're kind of a pervert," he says, finally speaking the absolute truth. Yojin just offers a subtle smile, like she's winning an argument. This girl's built different. Even though he might have phrased his judgment poorly, he's willing to respect her weird tastes. He finally agrees to hear her original song, though he's definitely skeptical about this private concert setup. They arrive at the music room just as someone calls out to her from the shadows. She takes her seat at the piano, but that brief spark of confidence fizzles out as her voice drops back to a whisper. It's like she's running on a 5-second battery. He finally asks if she's the one who's been haunting the halls every night. She keeps her head down, admitting she's been hiding in the dark to practice. Mystery solved. When he tells her the students literally call her the ghost of the music room, she looks genuinely blindsided. Turns out she had no idea she'd been haunting the place. Since she wants him to look down on her, he crosses his arms and tries to give her that pathetic bug stare, but she just tells him to relax his face, because he's trying way too hard to be the villain. Jason chimes in, noting how that cold-hearted mindset is actually a secret weapon. He's somehow stumbled onto the one girl who prefers being treated like a pebble. The mustachioed man can't fathom why anyone would want to perform for a human statue. But Jin-yong doesn't care about her motives. He's just here to check this off his to-do list. Cold-blooded, he tells her to hurry it up since his time's expensive, so she finally lets her fingers hit the keys. The whole piano starts glowing. It's go time. She takes a deep breath to steady the nerves. She starts to play, and her energy completely flips the vibe of the room. She's actually got skills. Finally swept up in the music, she lets a small smile break through. The song eventually fades, leaving a silence that feels a lot more intimate than either of them probably intended. Breaking the tension, he starts clapping like he's at the front row of a world-class opera house. He calls it a timeless masterpiece, which just earns him a look and a plea to stop being such a clown. She apologizes for the nerves, but the mood shifts once she mentions how long it's been. He can't even look at her after she admits it's been 7 long years since she played for another soul. She's been hiding that talent for nearly a decade, playing only for herself in the silence of the empty school. She confesses that her past basically made her hate the idea of anyone listening, which is how she ended up as such a musical hermit. She's terrified of the heavy expectations she usually sees in everyone's eyes. But she tells our boy his gaze is different, mostly because it feels like he isn't judging her at all. She immediately hides her face in her hands, dying of embarrassment over how much she's oversharing. Once she settles back down, she whispers a quiet hope that he'll actually listen to her this time. Jin-yong just stares at her with a completely blank expression, giving her nothing. He kills the mood instantly by telling her he can't hear a word she's mumbling. What an absolute buzzkill. Finally, our guy softens up a bit. He tells her it's fine to mess up, so she should just relax and play already. Yojin looks up in genuine shock. She definitely didn't expect a pep talk from the school's coldest student. In that moment, she remembers all the people who used to tell her winning was her only option. In her memory, she's standing all alone while the weight of those expectations starts to crush her spirit. Her hands reach for the piano again, but this time there's zero hesitation. She closes her eyes and plays with a passion that fills the air with swirling notes, finally finding her rhythm. She's actually smiling while she sings, pouring her heart into a performance for someone she finally trusts. Our boy just sits behind her looking like he's trying to solve a complex math problem in his head, letting out a confused, huh. Out in the hall, the music is so good it's making the locals stop dead in their tracks. They're convinced it's the legendary ghost of the music room, making a vocal debut to go along with her piano skills. Meanwhile, Sunwoo's lugging around a sketchbook like it's some top-secret file. She bursts out laughing while showing off a drawing of a macho man that's way too intense for a high school art project. Since our guy actually asked her for this, she's planning to hand the masterpiece over as soon as it's finished. Her fingers strike the final notes. The concert's over. She mentions the track was an original work called Untitled, but her confidence immediately dips. She retreats back into her shell, terrified the music sounded weird to him. Instead of a critique, he catches her off guard with one word: amazing. He doesn't stop there either, telling her she's got serious talent and is on a whole different level. He knows nothing about music, but he's already convinced she's good enough to debut right now. That praise hits her like a physical force. She's so stunned he actually liked it that she's about to melt someone call an ambulance. She admits it's all very bizarre, since she usually locks up the moment there's an audience. He looks a bit lost, while she explains that even eye contact is a nightmare. It's scopophobia, a paralyzing fear of being watched. Now she's wondering why his gaze is the only one that doesn't trigger her panic. He just turns his head, having zero clue how to answer that. Since it's been 7 years since she played for anyone, she's genuinely thankful he broke the streak. His expression shifts as the weight of that gratitude sinks in. She gives him a deep bow right there in the music room to show her appreciation. A soft smile finally breaks through as she tells him she's truly happy. He lets out a heavy sigh. Jason, looking dapper in his tuxedo, notes that her stutter vanished the moment she needed to say thank you. He asks why our guy looks so pensive, but the answer isn't coming easy. Jin-yong's stuck in a loop. Even though she said she was happy, his stubborn mindset makes it impossible for him to actually see it. Jason watches him struggle and decides this confusion is just part of the process. Behind them, the music room sign sits silent as they finish their talk. While they walk through the courtyard, he tells her to get home soon so she doesn't start any new urban legends. She's completely clueless about what ghost stories he's talking about, but he just keeps moving. Smooth move, bro. A cheerful voice suddenly cuts through the air, making our guy nearly jump out of his skin. It's Sunwoo, waving at him with a smile bright enough to power a whole city. She catches up quickly and mentions she's got a question, leaving him wondering what on earth she could need from him now. She brings up that macho man drawing and suggests they chat while walking home together. Yojin goes still, as she watches the two of them walk away from a distance. She realizes that while he treats everyone else like a bug, his gaze for Sunwoo is totally different. Yeah, she's cooked. She stays back, watching the pair with a surprising sense of peace. Ultimately, she decides that the look she wants for herself isn't that kind of gaze anyway. With a soft smile, she steps out to wave them off as they head for the gate. See you again. Back in the music room, our girl is still trying to master a basic greeting. Her instructor has to keep reminding her to use a medium volume until she finally nails it. Fast forward to the walk home, and things have reached peak awkwardness between Sunwoo and our guy. The silence is so heavy, it feels like a third person is walking right between them. 10 minutes pass without a single word while they trudge through the sunset. The vibe is officially dead. Jin-yong watches her walk away, desperately wondering if there is any way to bridge the gap between them. Since he can't solve it alone, he heads to the faculty room to get some professional advice. He sits down and explains all the heavy thoughts that have been occupying his mind lately. Teacher Hangyul clearly isn't in the mood for teen drama as she listens to his story. She lets out a frustrated sigh, muttering that the whole situation is just a massive pain. Her bluntness is lethal when she asks if he's just too much of a beta guy. Roast level maximum. She launches into a full lecture about what she thinks women actually want from a man. According to her, the world belongs to masculine types and the classic bad boy. He listens quietly as she continues to critique his timid nature. She even tells him he looks so fragile that people feel like they have to watch his every step. Hangyul tells our guy to slick back his hair and ditch the boring glasses immediately. She suggests a pickup line about ramen that sounds like a one-way trip to a restraining order. He stares at his reflection, really letting that terrible advice sink in. The office goes quiet as she realizes she basically just handed a toddler a flamethrower. She tries to backtrack and tell him she was only joking, but it's already too late. The gears finally click into place, and he clenches his fist in a moment of pure realization. He agrees that manliness is the secret ingredient he's been missing this whole time. Our boy sprints out of the office to find a stylist before she can take it back. He's going for a full glow-up. The teacher sits back, realizing she might have created a monster by accident. She decides to let it burn for a bit, figuring the results should be entertaining. Sunwoo slips into the room just seconds later, looking for her own consultation. She approaches the desk with a nervous fidget, hoping for some real guidance. She admits to the teacher that things have gotten incredibly awkward with a certain friend lately. Instead of fixing it, Hanyul leans into the chaos with some very specific instructions. She tells her that if her friend suddenly shows up with slick-back hair and starts acting weird, she should just try to think it's cute. Outside, the mustachioed ghost floats nearby while the sun sets. He's fully on board with this new masculine direction. He tells our guy that a total transformation is his only way forward now. Jin-yong's terrified he'll just end up looking worse, but there's no turning back now. Our boy is spiraling when a voice cuts right through his thoughts. It's Yojin, the pink-haired girl from the music room, calling out to him. She's standing on the corner looking like she's been waiting for him to notice her for a lifetime. Hello. She immediately starts roasting him for talking to himself on the sidewalk. She notes it reminds her of a certain medical condition, which is just her polite way of calling him a total weirdo. Jin-yong is so deep in his own head that he's debating whether to watch tutorials or just throw money at a pro. He's completely blanking her existence, while she just stares in disbelief. Hey! A hand suddenly snatches his collar, and he nearly catches a stray punch to the face. Yojin's officially done being treated like an invisible insect. He finally blinks and realizes he was ignoring a literal human being. Ah, you're the bug. I mean Yojin. They start bickering about who grabbed whose neck first in their last encounter. It's like watching two middle schoolers fight over a juice box. She wants our guy to listen to her latest composition, but he has a makeover to schedule. He admits he's on a quest for a hair salon that can fix his boring style. Surprisingly, she offers a recommendation for her own place, swearing they've got the skills he needs. She hands over a business card and tells him to use her name as a referral. Jin-yong is actually grateful for the assist. They strike a bargain. If he actually goes, he's on the hook to listen to her latest composition next time they meet. When he finally tracks down the address, he thinks he's at the wrong place because it looks more like a five-star hotel than a barbershop. The staff gives him a look of pure judgment until he mentions the referral, but the vibe is so high-end it's terrifying. He clutches his backpack straps, convinced he's about to be finessed out of his entire life savings. Looking inside, he sees a full four-piece band performing on a literal golden stage. This isn't a salon. A guard screams into his radio to announce a VVIP arrival. He stands there paralyzed by the sudden escalation. A whole squad of stylists descends on him, offering gourmet drinks and even song requests for the band. He's way out of his depth. That's when Anthony Kim appears, a 30-year veteran who holds his golden scissors like a legendary weapon. After confirming the connection to Yojin, he promises the royal treatment, saying, "I hear you were referred by Ms. Yojin. We'll make sure you're treated to the finest service today." Our boy sits in the chair looking like he's facing a firing squad rather than a haircut. It's finally sinking in that Yojin is way more than just some girl who plays the piano. Fast forward to the next morning at school, where two girls stop dead in their tracks in the hallway. A crowd immediately forms to gawk at the mysterious stranger walking through the doors. No one can believe their eyes when they realize it's just their local nerd. He's rocking a fresh cut and a sharp black shirt, looking like a completely different person. He struts down the hall with confidence. Internally, though, he's still a nervous wreck who can't believe his own reflection. Jason chimes in to say the face is fixed, though the personality still needs a complete overhaul. He tells him he's officially got that main character energy. Sunwoo's right there, which immediately makes him panic and start running through his teacher's terrible advice. He desperately tries to psych himself up, repeating the instruction to keep a tough face and act confident. Suk-young shouts for Sunwoo as they both spot him. She's so stunned she can barely say his name. They both hover by the lockers, trying to process the fact that he actually has a jawline now. Her brain is totally short-circuiting. Since he's already committed, Jin-yong leans into the bad boy persona and yells for her to come over. "Come to my house. You're the only one I can see." Verdict: he's going to be the only one seeing a jail cell at this rate. She's stunned by the audacity. Meanwhile, his brain is buffering as he frantically tries to find the words to follow up that disaster. He doubles down on the cringe by suggesting they eat ramen while silently asking himself if he's doing any of this right. He's transfixed by her red eyes. She's baffled by the request to head to his place and wants to know what he's thinking. That's when the confidence starts draining away as his brain lags behind his mouth. He's screaming on the inside because his brain skipped every logical step and just blurted it out. Luckily, the tension is shattered when Juman shows up to complain about the noise. He isn't here for the drama. He just wants the guy to stop clogging up the hallway. He starts telling the crowd to get lost, pointing out that a little hair gel doesn't actually make Jin-yong a celebrity. Juman goes full academic mode, lecturing everyone about wasting time instead of hitting the books for exams. He leaves the group standing in silence, clearly having zero patience for their high school rom-com energy. Someone even shouts a compliment after him as he struts away, leaving the main group in a total daze. But our guy is quick and seizes the rant as a lifeline to save his terrible plan. He plays it off like the whole point of the invite was just a study session for the upcoming tests. Surprisingly, Sunwoo buys the excuse and stutters out an agreement for the study date. Suk-young has an actual job to get to, though, so she bows out of this awkward situation. He tells her he'll wait after school, trying to look way cooler than he actually feels. Sunwoo just watches him walk away, probably wondering when the local nerd suddenly became such a smooth operator. He's still checking himself out in every reflection, praying that transition from weirdo to heartthrob actually landed. Jin-yong's practically vibrating with energy as he walks past the other students. His heart's hammering. The sun's already setting by the time they finally make it to the apartment complex. They walk together toward the residential entrance, feeling the weight of the moment. Sunwoo takes the lead, pointing the way while they keep up some stiff small talk. Once they reach the modern glass doors, the reality of the situation hits home. Now it's time for that classic elevator silence where you can hear your own heartbeat. Neither of them knows where to look while they're trapped together in this tiny metal box. The floor numbers crawl toward 13 as the tension hits a breaking point. Jin-yong finally pushes the door open and announces himself with a voice that's definitely shaking. But his mother is already waiting there with a massive smile, ready to inspect the girl her son actually managed to bring home. She freezes the moment she sees their guest. Sunwoo stands there politely while he tries to introduce her, but his mother just keeps staring. She goes into full shock, screaming for her husband like the house is burning down. She bellows for him to come out and witness the miracle standing in their living room. His dad wanders in wearing a bright pink shirt, looking floored that his son isn't lying. Sunwoo keeps her composure with a polite smile, while our guy is just trying his best not to fumble the bag. The old man gives her a long look, probably wondering if she's a paid actor hired for the afternoon. Luckily, he snaps out of it and gives them the green light to start their session. Mom isn't feeling his casual vibe, though, and orders him to go cut up some fruit. She flips back to her sweet hostess voice to tell Sunwoo to make herself at home, even while she's still roasting her husband. She keeps shouting about his recent haircut, claiming it all makes sense now while the kids listen in pure agony. Thinking fast, Jin-yong suggests they retreat to his room before his parents spill any more embarrassing secrets. The door finally shuts. They settle in at a small table. He tries to focus, but his brain is short-circuiting because of the girl sitting right next to him. Sunwoo's got her hair tied up today, which has our guy's pulse hitting a solid 120. He steals a glance at her book, wondering if she's actually reading or just using it as a shield to hide her face. A sudden knock at the door breaks the spell when his mom asks if they're busy. She needs some muscle to help haul a mountain of side dishes down to the car for a trip to the grandparents. It's a full team effort loading the boxes. His mom clearly has no concept of portion control. Sunwoo charms the parents instantly, laughing while promising she'd love to try some of that home cooking. Jin-yong just watches as his mother basically adopts her on the spot. Dad suggests the boy could clutch up and deliver the food alone, but he gets a swift chop to the head for being oblivious. "Just be quiet and drive, mister," she says, shutting that idea down fast. The parents are going to be gone for at least 2 hours, leaving the house officially empty. The green car pulls away, starting a 120-minute countdown of total solitude. They stand in the parking lot for a moment as the weight of being alone finally sinks in. He awkwardly asks if they should head back inside, and she gives him a nervous nod. They walk toward the entrance. Their thoughts are racing way faster than their feet. The hallway feels way longer than usual now that they're going to be completely solo. Sunwoo's looking a bit down bad herself, as she realizes they're heading into dangerous territory. She mutters about how risky this is, which leaves him totally confused. They reach the elevator only to find it's out of order. On the 13th floor, that's a death sentence. Jin-yong remembers her chronic anemia and looks at her with genuine worry. She mentions how nice it is when people are actually healthy. It turns out she's been taking iron supplements regularly, and they've been helping her manage things lately. Even with the iron supplements helping her, she knows this climb is going to be a lot. She tries to keep the mood light by joking, "And if I collapse, you will just carry me, right?" He sticks right behind her as they start the long trek up the concrete stairs. However, the physical toll hits her fast, and by the first few landings, every step is a struggle. She's already drenched in sweat and falling behind the pace. 13 floors is a hell of a hike. For someone with chronic anemia, climbing 13 flights is way more than just a workout. Without enough hemoglobin to move oxygen, every single floor is a battle for breath. Normal cardio is hard, but this is just unfair. She's gasping for air, her vision blurring as she pushes past her breaking point. Her strength evaporates, she's done. Her balance vanishes. She tips backward toward the concrete steps. Jin-yong's heart drops into his stomach as he screams her name. He lunges forward with everything he's got, because if he misses this catch, her day is turning into a hospital trip real fast. Thankfully, he secures his grip and pulls her in before gravity can finish the job. Our guy saves the day in the most dramatic way possible. She stays frozen in his arms, staring up in total disbelief. Talk about a close call.